Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day number 2 of the second Dragonflight Cup. My name is Aya. I'm joined here with Zico, Venruki, and Subatees. If you were tuning in yesterday, you saw the European teams battle it out to make it to Championship Sunday tomorrow. And now we're hopping over to North America, Sid.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see these teams. There's been some massive upsets. Team Liquid in particular, I think, is the biggest upset in North America, not making it to top 8 this weekend, despite being a finalist in last weekend's competition, which has opened up a whole lot of chaotic possibilities for qualifications, because this is the halfway point. Like, after this, there's only 2 more cups, and you need to get into the top 3 if you want certainty to be playing in the North American finals. Otherwise, you're going to have to go into a gauntlet tournament, and we have a stacked lineup here of teams. There's a lot of Rogue Mage this time around here, especially in North America. The first series of the day is going to be Calvish's Rogue Mage coming in here on Shall We, going up against Big BOORST. This is going to be Foxy's debut, Yosk's debut again in competitive play. He competed a lot in the ANZ region back in the day, and he's going to be pairing up with Kosaki as a healer, likely going to be playing a jungle cleave.
Absolutely. Really a tough competition on the line. They are, of course, Fen trying to make it with enough points to get into that top 3. And like Sid already mentioned, we're halfway through. I feel like that went by really quickly, Ben.
I mean, it definitely did. We're in the second cup right now, so this is the second opportunity for these teams to earn points. And it's really important that they do, because there's only a total of 4, like you mentioned. And in order to qualify into the finals, you need to make top 3. So right now, Luminosity, Liquid, and Golden Guardians are in that position, which is the spot you want to be. But obviously, things are going to be changing here over the course of this weekend in terms of how many points all these rosters are going to have. But yeah, it's rough, right? Because before it was, if you made top 4, then you were good for the finals. Now it's top 3, and if you're in that 4th position, you're going to have to battle it out in the AWC Gauntlet, and that is not going to be an easy thing to do.
No.
Especially if you're one of those teams that's in 8th position. You're going to have to win in 4 series back-to-back against some of the best teams in the region, and all of them are going to want to make it to that finals.
Especially with how inconsistent I feel like things have been, Zico. I mean, we had teams winning the first cup. This is the same story for EU as well. We had teams winning cup number 1, didn't even make it to this cup. Teams that were doing really well in points also aren't making it, and unexpected meta changes. Like, what's your take on all that, Zico?
Well, the meta is constantly changing, so teams have to be very quick with adapting, and those who don't, they're going to be in a tough spot, and I think we're seeing some of that happen. And we're thinking obviously about teams like the Agents in Europe. We're thinking about Team Liquid as well. Definitely struggling a little bit here, not making it to this cup, but we still have 2 more cups to go, and they did manage to snag a lot of points. So hopefully they can bounce back, and if not, well, the gauntlet awaits. Now, Big BOORST, as you can see right there, and Shall We? These are the players on the teams, and that is their socials. The players are allowed to stream, and also people are allowed to do watch parties on the AWC. So make sure that you guys are following the players. Make sure you guys are tuned in to their Twitch channels if you would rather see, a rogue point of view in Calvish, or a healer point of view, for example, in Kearney.
Absolutely. Make sure you're supporting our players. Really cool that we get to check out their POVs this time as well. But that is the first 2 teams that we have competing this morning, and I'm excited. I mean, we're not really sure what they're capable of. Supatees, do you think that there's one that's favored in this next cup, or in this next match?
I feel like Calvish has kind of been on the come up. I'm a bit confused by their roster, honestly. I'm not sure if they had a 4th at some point and now don't have one, because Corlick in the past has been a healer, and so has Kearney, to my understanding. So I'm not sure what they're going to play, honestly, with the names in this roster. Whereas Yosk, Foxy, and Kosaki's been a phenomenal top-level ladder player on Holy Paladin for years at this point. Yosk has been a tournament competitor, qualifying multiple times to the ANZ region on Hunter, like one of the best hunters in the game. Foxy as well with Feral Druid. Like, even though maybe you don't recognize these names, they don't pop off the screen like a Peekaboo or a Sea-Doo. These are phenomenal top-level players, elite-level players on this team. So it should be a very exciting series. The only thing, again, of concern to me at the moment is just looking at the roster of Shall We and going, like, Kearney and Corlick, they're both healers. What's going on this team? And then Calvish is on there. It's like, I'm not sure what they're going to play if that is actually their full roster.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen a lot of that too. I mean, we've got quite a few players that were once healers, switching over the DPS, vice versa. Like Cubsy, for example, taking over that DPS role. So it's interesting. We're seeing kind of a lot more multi-classing this time around, men.
Yeah, I think it's one
rolling also.
Yeah, I think in some cases there's a lot of healers and there's a lot of DPS that they're just good players, right? Like they're going to be able to heal, they're going to be able to do damage, and some of them do. Like Cubsy, for example, even when he was healing, he was still playing his mage in like rated battlegrounds in one of the best teams in North America. So these players, they're very flexible, and it's not a huge leap for them to go from healing to damage. Like if Kearney was going to play Shadow Priest, Corlic, I know he plays a lot of Classic. He's an Elemental Shaman on there, so it makes sense that they can play different specs, and I think it's just one of those things that I think players are becoming more flexible. They're experimenting more with different classes, different roles. And I feel like you kind of have to have that flexibility if you want to be consistent in a format like the AWC.
Yeah, flexibility, a lot of adaptions that we're seeing as well with that quick meta change, really tight turnaround for Cup number 2 here. So we're going to see what these two teams have in store for us. It's game number 1. It's an elimination round as well. Neither of these teams obviously want to get sent home for the first game of the day, Zico.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct here. We are in the lower bracket starting things off today, and we got both teams kind of leading with their main comp here. We got Kearney on that Holy Paladin, Calvish actually playing that Assassination Rogue, and Corlic going to be tagged in on the Shadow Priest. Now, the jungle is actually not playing that Discipline Priest, which is interesting because a lot of teams in Europe do consider the Discipline Priest to be a lot stronger in these matchups now. Because we did see that yesterday, but we are starting things off here. Hammer of Justice onto Cyfoxy already. Kosaki in crowd control here. Cyfoxy already forced to use that renewal, healing himself up. Yosuke as well taking some damage. Melee Wings active. Sacrifice active. Kosaki already trading out a trinket here. So decent start for Shall We. But Kearney also having to trade out that Blessing of Protection right away. Corlic now taking a lot of damage in that Rakestone to get the Hammer of Justice. Potentially Blinding Light as well there by Kosaki. Can they find any more crowd control is the question. They do find a freezing trap there onto Kearney, but it does get mass dispelled by Corlic. Beautifully done. DR Scattershot coming in onto Kearney, but no more crowd control for him. Should mean that Corlic should be okay here to stay alive. He did have to burn through that dispersion though, and now in deep trouble. Kearney using that bubble, using the melee wings, and Corlic also using that void shift. So that is literally all of the Shadow Priest and the Paladin's defenses, and things are just wide open. Big BOORST still have a little bit of defense left, and they are actually turning things onto Calvish here as well. A lot of pressure coming in from both sides, I have.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, and a lot of pressure as well with the standings. These guys need to make it through into that lower bracket if they want any hope of getting to the end of this cup in that top 3. So quite a bit of pressure on the line, especially since this is the first one of the day. We know that Big BOORST, talking to them earlier this week, they're kind of a casual team. It seems like they maybe didn't expect to make it. They were actually making their tunes on the tournament ladder really soon before the actual tournament started. So there is that death from Big BOORST. We're seeing Shall We take a game number 1 victory, Zico.
Yeah, but it's not over yet. Maybe Cyfox is trying to get something going, but he doesn't have enough damage to get anything moving here. It will be Cyfoxy bowing out there, and it will be Shall We actually taking that game right there. It wasn't looking too good for them there. Definitely a lot of pressure on the Shadow Priest. They had to use every single cooldown they had, but they were able to come back there. They were able to get that pressure onto the Hunter. It was a really nice sap, actually, that came out from Calvish. We're going to see it here towards the end. I think it was a smoke bomb as well that came out from Calvish. So this is the moment where they overlap everything, you know. They use the bubble, they use the void shift, they use everything, and then they go after Yosuke here. Yosuke in that turtle, and look at Calvish here getting that sap onto Kosaki into another one, and then they get that Garrote there onto Yosuke, and I think it's a smoke bomb actually that closes it out for Calvish. Scattershot coming in here from Yosuke, and then Calvish actually eats the trap, gets dispelled on that trap, and then pushes in, gets the kidney shot. Psychic Horror coming out, Kosaki bubbles, but it's not enough, and Calvish making some big plays there. You know, We've been talking a lot about this guy. He's the kind of the young up-and-comer. We saw him a lot in that previous season, doing very well on that subtlety rogue, and now he's going to be back here with a brand new roster, eating the traps. You know, he's on the assassination rogue. It's a little bit less flashy compared to the sub rogue. You know, you don't have the shadowy duel and the big one-shot that the sub rogue has, but you have a lot of consistent pressure. You do have that death mark, which is what actually gets them the kill. And again, we can see right there, eating that trap. Very, very crucial there. As you can see, Kosaki, he had no way out of that trap. Kearney had really no way out there. So it was really nicely done there, allowing him to trinket a little bit later and allowing them to get that kill with the smoke bomb and with that Shadow Priest disarm.
All right. Nicely done here. Or shall we? And now it's going to be up to Big Burst to try and turn it around. They're going to get that map choice, Zico. And obviously they're looking to tie this up. What do you want them to see them do as we move into cup number 2? So game number 2.
I think in an ideal world, I would say I want to see a priest tagged in. I feel like there's been a lot of, meta shift, in the last patch, a lot of teams were opting for that Holy Paladin, but I feel like the Holy Paladin Shadow Priest, I can kind of get behind it, there's no class stacking there. But for Big Burst, they're playing jungle. They're playing max offense. I feel like if you get that priest, we saw Meh yesterday actually out damaging, pure DPS classes like Raikou on that mage, on that discipline priest. It adds a lot of extra damage, and they got a lot of cooldowns. In the past, this priest has been about very fast-paced games, and if you fall behind, you don't really have a good way to recover. But now they got Power Word Life, they got double charge of PS, pain suppression, and they got Void Shift. You got the Dome of Light. They just got so many ways to actually stall out the game, so many cooldowns to rotate through, and so much extra damage. So I don't know if Kosaki's been practicing it at all, but if he has, that's what I want to see. And also this priest into the Holy Paladin, not too bad as well. Gives them another win condition. They could go after the Paladin, try to master spell the bubble. Just gives them more pressure overall.
Yeah. Curious as well. It sounds like, because I know we sort of mentioned it, like Kosaki, he is a main, he plays Wrath mainly. It sounds like he's sort of transitioning over to be retail, so it seems like maybe he's just taking a little bit of a time to sort of adjust, figure out what exactly works for him best as a class. So yeah, I'm curious as well if he has that disc priest. If not, I mean, how can they make their current composition work, Zico? Or do you think
it just has to be those just has to be mid-game adaptations, and
right.
I think targeting as well. I don't like going after the Shadow Priest. I feel like rogues, one of their main weaknesses right now is that you can actually kill the rogue fairly easily. I feel like Shadow Priests, they don't really die that easily. You got the dispersion of fairly short cooldown. You got a lot of self-healing, desperate prayer, things like this. So I think what I would want to see, if they don't swap anything out in composition and they just stick with the same, and it's the strategy change of actually going after Calvish. Go for the trap on Kearney, go for the scatter shot onto Korlik, because it's very important. We saw that with the Fiends in Europe. It's not quite the same, obviously. It's a Hunter Rogue, and also they play with a Holy Priest, so it's a little bit different, but it's kind of similar. We saw them into, I think it was Shadow Priest Rogue Druid, so a little bit different matchup, but I think it's the closest thing that we can compare it to. And in that matchup, they went after the Rogue over and over and over again. They did lose the series, but they were able to get some kills, and there was some cross kills happening, things like that. So I feel like go after the Rogue. He's the main weakness here, and make sure that Korlik is just shut down, because the reason why it's good to go on Korlik is because he has that master spell, right? So if you get the trap on the healer, he can still remove it, but it's a hard cast to kick. But if you can actually preemptively kind of scattershot the priest, root him in a bad location where he can't reach the master spell and things like that, and just annoy him, and just throw the micro CCs on the priest, throw the full CCs on the healer, you actually have a squishier target. And I think Big Burst, they're kind of on the clock in a way.
Yeah, certainly, especially with the fact that Xiaohui is really close to getting a match point here. We know how game number 1 went. Now we're heading into hook point, and they really have got to start turning this one around because they're facing elimination. It sounds like, talking to them also earlier this week, they didn't even really expect to, kind of said this during the game, didn't expect to actually make it here all the way. So now's their time to kind of prove themselves. We know Yosk is a seasoned AWC veteran. He dominated that APAC region, and now he is back to really prove a point. Cy Foxy as well. He's been around in the scene for a while. We haven't seen him. We didn't see him in Shadowlands at all, but we know him as an excellent Feral Druid. So let's see what they can do as we head into game number 2 on Hook Point.
Yeah, let's see what Yoski can do here. See how the opener looks. Calver's actually almost getting flared out right there. Hammers down here for Kearney. They're going to open up onto Corlick. Kidney shot onto Cyfoxy. And Calvish eats the first trap immediately. And then there's the Master Spell coming out from Corlick as well. So even though they are going on that Shadow Priest, they don't even shut down the Master Spell. But they are actually going after the Rogue here. A lot of damage coming out here. Yoski on that Survival Hunter doing some work. That Blessing of Protection though coming out for Kosaki. And now Yoski in a lot of trouble here, dropping quite low there. It does have Exhilaration, and he does decide to pop it. And here comes, actually, he's playing that BM Hunter, going for that Bestial Wrath here, doing quite a lot of damage, but has to use that aspect of the turtle, as he does drop dangerously low. And Kosaki still has 2 charges of that Blessing of Protection. There it is, immediately on that Kidney Shot, but that actually gives Calvish a window here where he can potentially take him down with that next Death Mark. I am so scared for Yoski. There's no sacrifice, there's no Blessing of Protection. I think they could just kill him with just raw pressure here. Yoski is in a lot of trouble, Aya.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. I mean, you can see he's just trying to run away, make space between him and Calvish, but he's just chasing after him. There he goes. There comes that pressure, and it looks like he's going to go down.
Massive damage coming in. Did he even use the Death Mark? He's using it now. Calvish, actually, why did he not use it there? Like, what? That was so free, actually. Wait, was he playing Dwarf? Maybe it's because he was playing Dwarf. He decided not to do it. There's a lot of... I think Yoski actually is playing a Dwarf. I need to check the AWC Companion, because if he didn't use the Death Mark, that's the main reason right there. And yeah, he's a Dark Iron Dwarf. That's why. Okay, so Yoski, yeah, you can see he has that Fire Blood ratio. You can see it actually. We just recently added it to that tracker. So Calvish here is playing kind of a game of chicken with Yoski. So they get the Blessing of Protection. That's one way to remove the Death Mark. And also the Sacrifice is one way to kind of negate it. And then they go after Yoski here. He has the Fire Blood ratio. Calvish wants him to pop that. If he doesn't pop that, he's not going to pop his Death Mark. He kidney shots him, but here I feel like he should just send it. He does Trinket. He does pop... Actually, he just does pop the Trinket, but he can't actually access the Fire Blood even when he does Trinket, because they share a 30-second cooldown. So Yoski, he's kind of in a chicken mate situation right there. And Calvish actually does the right thing there. It looks weird to not use the Death Mark there, but it is the right play, because if he does use it, he actually gives Yoski a free way to remove all of his bleeds and all of his pressure. So he actually has more pressure by not using it. And then the moment where he trinkets the kidney, that's where he has an opportunity to actually send it. But I think at that point, Kosaki also has that sacrifice or that forbearance maybe off on Yoski. It's a little hard to see, but I think Calvish actually played it right there by not using it. It does look kind of weird when you're sometimes not using your offensive is the best way, but that really is World of Warcraft. You know, it's a kind of a chess game, trading the cooldowns, and as long as you hold on to that cooldown, and like, you know, on one side, Yoski, he could have Fire Blood Racial as well, right? But if he does, he's dead to the next Death Mark. So it's a tough spot to be in, you know. You're kind of dead if you don't, and you're kind of dead if you do. So I'm expecting maybe some changes to come out from Big BOORST, because so far the BOORST has not been big.
Little BOORST. Small BOORST.
Yeah.
All right, well, definitely want to see Big BOORST make a comeback here. They're going to have to reverse sweep it, though, if they want to move forward here in the tournament. So looks like we are going to Ruins of Lordran, so maybe we do see a change. It's quite a bit different from the first map that they picked in game number 2 as Hook Point. So shall we, playing that same composition, now Big BOORST is going to respond. And if you are watching from home and you want to look at what Zika was looking at just now, you can go to the AWC companion at awc.gcd.tv. You can take a look at all the talents that they did do in that last game. And we can take a look at it also right here, the comparisons of the two Holy Paladins, Kosaki and Kearney. And what do we think of this? Anything notable? It's like exact same build.
It's literally identical. Every single piece of gear. Yeah, they got a different weapon. Why is he using the Drakebreaker's mace? Actually, it's a lower item. I guess it has better stats compared to the Crimson Gladiator's Gavel. It's 3 item levels less though. I don't think it's a reason why they lost or anything. But
critical crit versus verse mastery.
No, so they're just opting for the better stats on the lower item level. And Cyfoxy. Things are looking pretty standard here. Nowadays, you just always run that renewal. Feral's got hit with that Frenzied Regen nerf. So you need that extra survivability for sure. And I think Kavish, it's an interesting thing for rogues. Basically, everybody plays that hemotoxin. Now, hemotoxin is super strong. That's like a mandatory talent, I would say. But people actually do alternate between the smoke bomb and some other talents, and that maneuverability, that blue kind of sprint icon on the PvP talents of Kavish. A lot of people just pretty much always mandatory to use that one as well. So it is interesting to see because a lot of the rogues actually don't use that smoke bomb anymore as a win condition. But Kavish is opting for the smoke bomb, and that maneuverability is very important, of course, as well. Just because one of your weaknesses as the Asa rogue is that you can be kited, but it just gives you an extra mobility. We call it the freedom sprint. You pop it and you can't be snared. Yeah, we got a nice little nickname for that.
Do you have to like eagle screech as you're popping it, or?
No, I don't play rogue, so I'm not sure. If I did play rogue, I probably would. Yeah, the extra freedom units.
Yeah. Well, we are heading in. Go ahead.
I mean, I think we were gonna say the same thing. We're going into match point on Ruins of Lordaeron. Is that what you were gonna say?
Yeah, pretty much. You can do it. You want to do it? You want to send us in?
All right, it's match point. It's Ruins of Lordaeron. First series of today, guys. Loser bracket, lower bracket. Whoever loses gets eliminated from here, and it is a fitting final resting place, as it is a cemetery. Sorry, Super Tees. I know you're cringing a little bit at me. You usually do it better, but we'll take it. And the game is live. We do see Kosaki actually on the priest here. I'd love to see that change. Let's see how they perform there with the priest. Already Kosaki though getting disarmed there. Korlik already taking a lot of damage here on that shadow priest, and Kosaki having a great time here, just trading out the pain suppression early here and allowing his hunter to actually stay aggressive. And Yoski now looking for the scatter shot into the trap, but Kavish tries to eat it, not able to get it. Massive Spike comes out. There's the fear from the priest. That extra offense already paying dividends, forcing out that divine shield. There's the dome of light as well. Yoski is chilling in that one. Another pain suppression onto Yoski. They've used every single damage reduction in the whole game. Korlik, they dropping dangerously low here. Is he gonna void shift? It's a game of chicken. Who's gonna press? It will be Kearney actually getting void shifted right there, taking some hit from that, but he should be able to recover. And Kosaki also using his void shift right there. So everybody out of cooldowns already, but Korlik already going super low here. Finally getting a little bit of healing there from Kearney, but definitely not stable at this point. Cyfox as well taking some cleave damage. Yoski pushing in there to get sacrificed on the scatter shot trap right there. Would have been the game potentially if he managed to get that scatter trap. And now Yoski, what is he going to do? He's on the back foot. The Garrets are coming in. The damage is coming in. Cyfox actually getting swapped there. Here's a full kid. He's got no trinket. He's got a revival if he survives. Mind Games comes in, and Korlik takes him down right there with the Waz stutter step there at the end as well. You love to see that. And that will be Shall We making quick work out of Big BOORST.
Wow, but what a difference. I mean, how do you feel like that went with Big BOORST playing the pre-Seco?
I liked it. I feel like... I don't want to be overly critical over Kosaki. I don't know how much time he has on that priest, but I feel like his healing, he used his cooldowns very well. He rotated his cooldowns very well, and he was able to get fear, which was nice. I feel like the main thing actually that kind of made this game go the way it did is this moment, I think, right here where Kearney, look at that scatter shot. Right there, it instantly breaks, and that's because of that red glowing icon under Kearney's frame. That is that Hand of Sacrifice, and what that does is it transfers damage that Korlik takes back to Kearney. So if you take damage in a scatter shot, it breaks. So it's kind of the same thing as like a priest, Shadow Word Deafing a polymorph. So a very clutch play there by Kearney, and then he has the Blessing of Protection to back it up. He goes for the Hammer of Justice, that blinding light as well, and they're able to get the kill as a result. And yeah, I really like this swap as well. I think they actually decided to swap to Cyfoxy here because I don't know what Cyfoxy trinketed. It might have been an earlier like a Harge or a Fear maybe. I'm not sure, but Cyfoxy has no trinket. Oh, he trinkets right here. So at this point, he trinkets out of that smoke bomb, and Kavish is like, oh, perfect. I can just press Kidney on this Druid and press my Death Mark now. They have no way to remove my Death Mark. They don't play with a Paladin, and this guy has no trinket. So it's an easy Kidney shot. It's an easy Death Mark, and there it is. Mind Games. Damage is absolutely unhealable, and even if he could heal it, Kosaki's got no way to actually get out of that crowd control. they're able to get the win. Very decisive victory here for Shall We, and Kavish is back.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this team made a splash in the AWC last season in Shadowlands, and this is looking very strong for them so far. Of course, they are in the lower bracket, so they're still facing elimination. They're going to be moving forward to get some new competitors to try and stay in it later on today, but unfortunately that is going to be the end of the line for Big Burst. I would love to see them go again next Cup. We know that Cup signups for Cup 3 and 4 are still open, so if you're interested in potentially playing against either of these teams, and if you're a Big Burst, be sure to check those out. But like I said, Shall We, moving forward, we'll see them again later today. They're actually going to be playing the winner of one of these next teams. So we can look here at the bracket, see where we are. Like I said, Shall We? They're just kind of waiting on a competitor, and we're going to move into another elimination round, and it's Ascension versus Golden Guardians Eco.
That is absolutely correct. We got Ascension versus the Golden Guardians. Now, the Golden Guardians, they finished up in 3rd place. So, you know, they had to go through the gauntlet last week. They definitely had a little bit better start, though. And this week, they're going to have to do that same kind of performance. Ascension, I think we saw them last week as well, playing that RMP, and they also have Dippy. Now, Dippy, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a Boomkin mage. Boomkin main. But he hasn't been playing that Moonkin because, well, they haven't been too great. However, Moonkin's received a decent amount of buffs this week, so maybe we'll see him tagged on that Moonkin, or maybe they will just stick to that RMP. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it should be a very interesting game. You definitely don't want to miss it. Golden Guardians against Ascension.
Yeah, definitely excited for that. Hopefully you guys are too, watching from home. So we're going to head to a quick break. When we come back, it's Ascension versus Golden Guardians up next. everyone, welcome back. We are now in another elimination round. We've got Ascension versus Golden Guardians. Soup Teas, are you excited for these two teams?
I mean, this is going to be high energy. This is going to be fast paced, probably even faster than it already has been established in the meta at the moment. Both these teams are really aggressive. Both of them like making flashy plays. Ascension is the roster of Palomar, Whaler, Dopamine, and Dippy. This is an insane roster this year. Whaler's been flexing onto multiple healers, but I imagine he's pretty happy about the priest changes that came through. So I'm really excited to see him play some priest this weekend. Dippy's been multi-classing. He's pretty much the only player that maybe there's a chance, that he plays Moonkin, but he's also competing with a mage and a rogue on his team in terms of a spot for that, so probably not. I'm anticipating, actually I'm not 100% sure, because they're fighting the Golden Guardians, which is, you know, notorious for playing Shadow Priest, rogue, healer with Absterge, Peekaboo, Whizk, and then Jellybeans as a substitute on that hunter. And Shadow Priest rogue has been difficult for a lot of the rogue mages throughout multiple expansions. So if they lock in rogue mage confidently in the blind pick, it's kind of almost like asserting dominance a little bit. Like, we're not afraid of your Shadow Priest rogue. We're going to play rogue mage regardless. I don't really know if they'd even have any other comp that would be much better. I know Dippy has been playing a lot of Warlock and some Death Knight, but I feel like you've got to kind of go into this as rogue mage and make it work here. Also, I think Ascension was one of the few teams to be running a Frost Mage in their Rogue Mage in the open bracket instead of an Arcane. Even in RMP mirrors, they were running Frost. So I'm really keeping an eye on the spec of Dopamine here. If he's leading in with Arcane, if they do decide to run Rogue Mage, or if it's Frost.
Yeah, curious as well. And it looks like we're going to the Shadow Priest rogue composition from Golden Guardians with Absterge on his Shaman also. So bread and butter composition for Golden Guardians are going to look really comfy with this comp. This is what they are known for. On the other hand, we've got Ascension playing the RMP. This is going to be a big game. This is elimination round for Ascension versus Golden Guardians.
All right, Palomar versus Peekaboo, a battle of the rogues. Absterge's getting gripped on the sap here, but now they're stacked up. Whizk turns it around with a double fear. They're still waiting for Palomar, just purging down buffs, trying to get a little bit ahead here, and Peekaboo does decide it open, but Palomar's immediately going for the healer. Absterge on that Resto Shaman. This might be a nightmare situation if an Assassination Rogue is able to train him down. He's got his Earthen Wall Totem. He's trying to protect himself. He's purging the mage. They're going after Dopamine. Smoke Bomb comes down. Psyfiend is up, just negating so much healing effects. Whaler's trying to kill Psyfiend. Palomar helps him out. Psyfiend gets taken down, but still massive damage incoming. Whaler blocks it with this barrier. Dopamine's not going to want to leave this anytime soon. He blast face Peekaboo. Peekaboo shadow steps to reconnect. We see Schism coming out. Massive swap again onto Absterge, caught in more crowd control, and Whizk not comfortable. He uses the Void Shift. He swaps his health over, but Absterge is still not safe. He has to activate the Astral Shift. They're trying to keep pressure on Dopamine while protecting Absterge at the same time, but I'm not sure if they can keep up the push here. Palomar is forced to pull away.
Oh, this is immediately so much pressure onto Golden Guardians. We're seeing Ascension just really go for it, all on top of each other right here in the map. It's just like so many rogues and mages here in this composition, in this game of game one. We know what these players are up against. Palomar really just getting chunked down. He's going to try and run away a little bit here after Peekaboo also, but look at him. He's going to run behind that pillar, try and get a little safe for now, and we're going to see his team try and chase after him. And see, I mean, look at it. He just keeps continuing to go down here. But everybody okay for now? We're about 2 minutes into this game. I mean, it's only game number one, and we're seeing so much immense pressure on both of these teams. Palomar just continues to lose health, Sid.
It was the Stormkeeper from Absterge. Big damage coming from Whizk, and Whaler is going to Void Shift, but now he's low on health. Can he pick himself back up? He gets kicked by Peekaboo. Peekaboo gets peeled by Palomar. He trinkets. He's going for the kill. Peekaboo nails it and gets it. Almost a double onto Palomar. Golden Guardians take game one here, 2 minutes in. And Absterge on that Resto Shaman, I was a bit worried. I was thinking like maybe he's just going to get tunneled down. It's going to be too tough to deal with these Assassination Rogues. But he did a phenomenal job with his team, rotating through cooldowns, staying alive, and then pressuring Palomar away to protect the Shaman. It opened him up to get some big Stormkeeper hits. Stormkeeper did receive some nerfs, but I actually still think it's pretty good. And right here, it almost killed through pain suppression. Later on in the match, you're going to see, I think it's actually almost right before this point or right after this point, Palomar's really low on health, which means he's going to have a tough time chasing Absterge around. And he might regret if he does. So he puts him into a kidney. Absterge breaks out with Medallion, line of sights, and avoids all the casts. Now Palomar's like, oh no, I'm stuck over here now. Caught in a kidney shot. Whaler pain suppressions. Absterge jumps in. Stormkeeper lightning bolt through pain suppression. He doesn't care. He's lobbing in these lightning bolts, and they almost kill him through pain suppression. Then Whizk almost dunks him with a Shadow Word Death. Like, all of that damage is through pain suppression. So it was a really close call, and because he had to swap and he's right next to Peekaboo, Peekaboo was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to hit this priest that's at 10% then, I guess, and net a kill off the back of it. So really good swaps there. I like that they acknowledged that they couldn't leave Palomar on their shaman. That was going to be some bad news bears if they kept letting him train Absterge like that. So clean swap there. Powering through pain suppression, which now disciplined priests have 2 charges of, but in that situation it didn't even look like it really mattered. He almost died through it anyway. So a bit of a rough run here. Golden Guardians look strong. We're going to Hook Point, so this is a really good small map, rush down map. Maybe they, you play a little bit more strategy than just tunnel a shaman, maybe get his trinket with a blind or something like that, and then go to him later on, because if he knows he's the target the entire game, I feel like it's a bit easier to work through your cooldowns.
Sorry, I was chuckling at Carl fixing his hair mid-draft. You gotta look good now that the cameras are on you, but it looked like they've locked in a composition as well. We're gonna see what Ascension responds with. Sid, we're seeing Hook Point a lot so far in Dragonflight. What do you think that infers?
I mean, it's just an aggressive map, and right now the meta is aggressive. Be aggressive, be aggressive. That's basically the name of the game right now. So any close-quartered maps where you can close the distances, rush down your target, and obliterate them is going to be really important for teams like Ascension that are focused on aggression. They are taking some time to lock in, so what are they considering here? I'm going to throw it out here, and I actually want to see them try a Boomkin. Just a Boomkin assassination rogue. I swear it could be good here. I swear you could kill the shaman. A Boomkin is going to do more pressure than the mage, because the Boomkin doesn't have to cast as much to be able to build up towards the glacial spikes. Like, you're getting more guaranteed damage, more instant crowd control. I actually wouldn't mind them experimenting it just one game. But at the same time, it's their tournament lives on the line. I'm sure that they don't care about my opinion in this instance. Although I would like it just for science reasons. I think you could also kill the rogue with that comp, but they're going to stick to it. Still running the Frost Mage on their team. Whaler Undisciplined, Palomar Assassination. I really just want them to be more unpredictable. I feel like it was just really obvious what they wanted to do with Absterge. And when you're obvious as RMP, it's really easy to deal with you. When you're just all over the place, it's like, oh, where's the next kidney going? I don't know, man. I'm scared. Like, I just earthen walled myself, and now they're going you. And you might have a lot of moments of panic. And that's what you need to do as Rogue Mage. You need to harass multiple targets. Your enemy should never know where you're going to hit next. And that's what the best Rogue Mages are going to try and accomplish.
Yeah, we've seen it before. We'll see if Ascension can do that here. Going to Hook Point, they're looking to tie things up. Like we've said, this is tournament lives on the line. They're facing elimination here. We know how hard those points are quickly becoming to get. We're about halfway through this first season, and we know these teams are really feeling all of that mounting pressure and dwindling opportunities to get the points as well. So we'll see what they do heading into game number 2. Golden Guardians looking to get match point, Sid.
All right, let's see if they can advance here. This is going to be another 3-0 quick series. I'm sure Ascension don't want to go out without a fight. They don't want their flames to pitter out. This is their first debut in AWC for 2023. They want a good showing and see what they can do in Dragonflight. They've had to flex over to some new specializations with that Disc Priest instead of Holy, Frost instead of Fire, a different playstyle, much more aggressive playstyle. Let's see if they can get in there and get the work done. The gates have opened. Where the sap's going to go initially here between the rogues. If any of these rogues get popped out of style, it's going to be a huge advantage to the opposing rogue. So very important opener here. Any AoE effects haven't gone out just yet. They're still holding on to it. Dopamine's right next to Whiskey, right next to Absterge. They're stabbing. Peekaboo moves in. He's looking to try and counter engage. Absterge in the kidney shot, immediately going for the shaman once again, but Peekaboo peels away Dopamine and Palomar, buying time for Absterge to get out of that stun and easily walk off that opener. This is not the opener you want as the Rogue Mage Priest. They got nothing from the side of the Golden Guardians. They're setting up some damage onto Peekaboo, but Palomar's deciding to retreat away, try and get a re-stealth, and maybe look for some bonus Garrote damage here for another push. Siphon getting line of sighted by Dopamine here. Good positioning by Dopamine, trying to fish for some polymorphs onto Whiskey, it looks like. Kidney shot onto Peekaboo, but Earthen Wall is down. That's blocking that hit. Golden Guardians, man, their defense is so good right now. They're looking like a brick wall. Triple crowd control. They're turning it around. Palomar down to 10%, has to trinket Cloak, but Whaler's blinded on his trinket. Palomar could easily die through Cloak at this point. He's just going down. Absterge going for the kill. Lightning bolts are flying through the skies. A sap out of the blind. No trinket for this. Palomar at 10% gets feared and taken out. And man, they looked invincible. The Golden Guardian, that was the cleanest game I have seen. Just absolutely impenetrable, and immediately flipped the switch from defense to offense and ran them down. Looking like monsters here in game 2.
certainly are. I mean, that's what happens when you have a team like Golden Guardians playing this composition for so long. It's definitely working for them here in Dragonflight. Definitely working for them here in game number 2. We can see how it all went down, Sid, on Hook Point.
I mean, just they couldn't get any pressure out. And right here's where they just ran them over. What did Whaler trinket? That's where the big mistake comes in. So he trinkets a silence. And then he gets fully blinded. You can't, especially when you're still on poly DR. Like, this is a full blind into a full sap. You can't trinket that. It's got to be Palamore's cooldowns if he needs to at that point in this situation. Because look at that chain. That was just 20 seconds of crowd control after that point. They immediately punished him for that. So that's the big mistake here. As a healer against any rogue team, like, your trinket's got to almost always be used on blind. Because if it's not, you're going to lose to blind. In this situation. So trinket's a silence, he panics, right? The damage is really high. Palamore's getting low. He's not sure he's going to live. And trinket rapture gets his shield out, but then immediate punish, and they just go right after it. So good on Golden Guardians to see that opening and take it. A lot of teams might play more passive and not see that opening, but they immediately punished it. So any mistakes here are going to be made very clear and apparent. Now they're on match point. They've only got one game to move. They've lost their best map. I still don't know how I feel about the opener on the Shaman, but it's tough. Like, what else do you do, right? Peekaboo's just never going to open, so maybe you just 2v2 as long as you can to try and whittle somebody down a little bit before you open. But they're flipping gears. They're going to 12 Veron Arena. Yeah, I just for experiment's sake. Now, to be fair, Boomkin defensively, and I'm rubbing my eyes here because I know how painful it can be in the Shadow Priest Rogue. This is like one of the hardest things is Boomkin to survive, but I think the sustained single target damage that Boomkin has with an Assassination Rogue could be really good, especially with a Disc Priest. If they just get a Solar Beam out really fast, a Kidney Shot, and run down a target, I could see it working, but they need to make sure that they're just never falling back, because if they do, the Boomkins are going to get stuck in bear form and probably just die to the Rogue. But I feel like they're probably not going to change the comp. Maybe they bring Dippy in, but maybe
with
Warlock.
Toveron?
Yeah, I'm thinking they might bring him out on Warlock, but I feel like a Warlock is also not a good pick into an Assassination Rogue. Like, nothing they have seems good, given how Golden Guardians are playing at the moment. Rogue Mage is probably their best. Maybe a swap to Arcane instead of Frost. It seems like Dopamine's really just hard locked on Frost Mage at the moment, because I'm pretty sure he played it exclusively in the open bracket, and they lost to Rosita Jones, Silver Sentinels RMP, and they were running Arcane. Although I think it was a back and forth series to my memory. I think it was like 3-2, but he played Frost the whole time through, and no one is playing Frost in RMP right now there, unless it's a counter to melee cleave. They're all pretty much playing Arcane. So in this situation, you're not fighting a melee cleave. It might just be better to be Arcane. You're gonna maybe.
What
even
are you looking for
spells
with Arcane versus?
I mean, the spam spell steal, I think, on the Shaman, if you're gonna train the Shaman, and just stripping him of all of his buffs the whole game, is really good. Like, if you're getting Earthshield, Riptide, and his fast cast heals off, you're gonna struggle to heal. It's gonna be a rough time there. And also, I feel like an Arcane Mage free casting might be a little bit more threatening on a pillar, just being able to lie. So he's switching spec, but not to Arcane to Fire. That was a bit surprising, huh? I didn't.
All right.
This is the first Fire Mage you're seeing here in the AWC for this year. Last year, of course, we saw it a lot, but this year, it's been in a tougher spot. I don't think it's the worst, but I feel like why would you pick Fire here? We need Ven or Zico right now, because I feel like there's not really a major advantage to it, other than it's just a little bit more instant damage. Like, he's going to be able to get in there, get on top of a target, get instant damage out. But it's going to be much lower burst relative to Arcane and Frost that have available to them. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's a comfort pick. Maybe Dopamine hasn't prepared Arcane. Like, Arcane is a completely different beast when it comes to Mage. Like, if you haven't played Arcane before, you're not just going to, like, respec over and be insane at Arcane. It's got its own niche and skill set that's required some development to be able to execute. So This is probably just comfort. Like, go Fire. I know what I'm doing on Fire. Let's try and make it work, I think, from Ascension.
I mean, I don't blame them either. It's been kind of a Fire Mage, Frost Mage meta for mages for so long. I mean, I don't remember the last time Arcane was picked this much ever, in not only PvP but PvE as well. It's not really a spec that has been given a lot of attention. It's cool to see that it's getting really popular here with the changes, but we'll see how Dopamine does with Fire Mage. If you're not familiar with this team, they've been playing together. They originally were Novos, of course, and I feel like this team is really fun to watch, Sid. I don't know what you think. Like, I think it was
Yeah.
Polymore that was wearing a dress for one of the tournaments, and I know they're just kind of a group of friends that seem to want to obviously play their best and compete really well, but also have fun with it at the same time.
I mean, Palomar definitely has the entertainment factor down down pat here. So hopefully they can get some clean plays here and put on a little bit more of a show. I can't imagine that they want to go out of this tournament 3-0. Although the Golden Guardians, man, like they're playing on a different level right now, a different plane. In week number 2, like you can tell they want it. They want to get this deep run, go all the way through, and get a win. Likely because they got reverse sweeped by Luminosity in the open bracket as well. So they probably want some, a little bit of grudge match because that's happened twice now. Palomar is also playing subtlety instead of assassination. So this is a really good comp to kill a rogue. I actually like this from Ascension. I didn't notice the subtlety pick until now, unfortunately, but this is a really good pick into assassination rogue and Havoc Demon Hunter. I think that's exactly what subtlety rogue is like built to destroy. So if Palomar can navigate around this. Also remember back in the day, they were running those resonators. They had big burst damage as sub rogue, even when everyone was outlaw. So this could be really insane. Let's see how they decide to open here. They're running in on top of WizKid, on top of Absturge, looking maybe for a sap. Trying to find their targets, trying to find Peekaboo. Peekaboo knows they're trying to find him, so he's off in the corner, far away from any potential stealth sightings. WizKid still just fishing around, keeping buffs up, purging down Whaler, trying to strip down some buffs before the fight actually begins to try and get every advantage possible. And Dopamine's out of stealth now, so Peekaboo's moving in on top of him here behind the pillar, getting closer. Palomar's getting closer. Who's going to be the first target? We see Siphene just a 2v2, Polymorph and Blind onto both healers, and both rogues don't want to open just yet. Palomar's going to open up on the WizKid. Where's Peekaboo going to go? He's going to sap the Blind, still patiently waiting. As he sees Palomar get a Shadow Meld restyle. He gets feared on his Shadow Meld. Oh no, Peekaboo immediately counter engages with the kidney shot. Really nice fear. Stormkeeper incoming. It's match point, and Palomar gets cracked. Golden Guardians 3-0.
Oh no, that was so rough. I don't know if he even got to use any abilities. You saw him get yoinked at the last second. He died like mid-life grip, Sid.
That was brutal. Like what he really wanted to do, he was trying to pre-Shadow Meld Peekaboo's opener and then open on Peekaboo. But WizKid just feared him. So he got pulled out of stealth. So right here, he opens on WizKid and he's baiting. He opens and then he Shadow Melds a couple globals into this. And Shadow Meld re-stealths because he thinks Peekaboo's going to open. And he doesn't want to get opened on. But because he gets feared, Peekaboo's like, ooh, that's good. I like that. Kidney shot. Nom, nom, nom. Just going to be eating up Palomar right now in the stun lock. And just immediately burst him down. And Stormkeeper, again, was a big deal here for Absturge. He got a lot of extra damage in that kill. If we have a details breakdown, I'm sure he was a significant portion of it. That was a really good punish. And that's like the mind games of a rogue. Like, you don't want the other rogue to open on you. So he baits Peekaboo thinking like, hey, I'm on your Shadow Priest. You're going to open on me, right? Shadow Meld re-stealth. Okay, he didn't open. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yikes. This is like the moment of no return when this happens. And I mean, insult to injury. Dopamine even gets hexed by Absturge. Like 2 lightning bolts and a hex, like it's 3-on-1. That was a crazy game right there from the Golden Guardians.
This is insane. 3-0. Golden Guardians, I mean, I feel like this is the best they've ever looked these last couple of cups, Sid. What do you think?
Definitely a really good performance on their part. I kind of worry a bit for Ascension that maybe they didn't have 100% like what they wanted to do with this series. Because obviously the Shadow Priest Rogue was going to be tough for them. And the fact that they locked in Fire Mage on the last pick and Sub Rogue on the last pick probably meant that they were relying heavily on Frost Acid to work, and it just wasn't. So moving into next week, getting some more comps maybe, as particularly for the Golden Guardians. Like I know Palomar has been playing some Windwalker and Solo Shuffle, and Windwalker has been rough for the Golden Guardians in the past. So getting some sort of cleave going with a Windwalker maybe it could be an option for them in this situation. But yeah, just Golden Guardians were more than prepared. They know how to dismantle a rogue mage, which is really good for them because there's a lot of that this week. So if they can continue to advance through just dismantling every rogue mage like that, we might have them as the champions here of Cup 2.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. They're going to be playing the loser of match number 4 that's coming up here, Golden Guardians, that is, and we'll certainly see who that is shortly. But we're moving up to the upper bracket next, Sid. We've got Where's GOURDY facing off against Silver Sentinels. We've mentioned them a few times. I'm really excited for Silver Sentinels. It's the return of Rosita Jones. You know, he last time I think we saw him was with not Panda Global. Yeah, Panda Global when he got second in BlizzCon losing to, I think it was Sea-Doo's team. So this is incredible, of course. And he's followed up with Naj, Flay, and Laros. So this could be a really strong team that we should be looking out for, Sid.
Yeah, Flay, a phenomenal priest. Priest really good right now, discipline priest. So excited to see him play. Naj on rogue, of course, an excellent top level rogue. I'm sure he's going to flex around on multiple rogue specs as well. A lot of other rogues might just get stuck on assassination. I wouldn't expect Naj to be one of those. So this is a flexible team, versatile. Laros is likely on warrior. Not sure how he's going to fit in with the meta 100% here, especially into where's GOURDY. I don't think you want to play a warrior because they're going to run Windwalker. They're going to run mage, and we got them right here. Flop likely on druid. Cubsy has been playing arcane mage. Chun-Li on Windwalker, and Wealthy Man likely is the rogue player for this team now. So whether or not they play rogue mage or they play Windwalker mage is really going to be the test, or if they play mage lock. Like they got a lot of different lines of play, and I think they should expect from Silver Sentinels to play rogue mage priest. That's what's been getting them through all of their games with Naj, Flay, and Rosita. So I'm expecting arcane Asa priest from them. And then where's GOURDY have to make up their mind? Like, are you a wizard cleave? Are you a Windwalker mage? Are you a rogue mage? So what's it going to be here?
You playing healer? You playing DPS? Round? Like, are we switching
who's healing this game?
Again?
Should we get Cubsy in to heal this game? How's your arm doing? Like, is it all healed up? Is this full power flop? Hopefully it is, because we would like to see that. But it should be exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, well, hopefully those things work out for them. We will see very shortly. We're going to head to a break. When we come back, it's upper bracket. Where's GOURDY versus Silver Sentinels in a little bit.
Welcome back, everyone. We just had a very explosive series, and we're just going to be jumping into our next series here. Where's GOURDY versus the Silver Sentinels? I'm joined here with Zico, and this looks to be a very interesting match.
Very interesting indeed. We got the Resto Druid against that Discipline Priest. It's going to be very interesting to see I think that's the key takeaway here. And of course, we got Flay here, the winner of the Solo Shuff tournament a little bit while back. So it's going to be interesting to see as well how he performs here in AWC. We got Naj as well, kind of a household name in the rogue community, going up against Chun-Li on that Asar. Does Naj have wall hack or something? What was that? He was just following Chun there around. They might run into each other here. I think they might have spotted each other there. I got to give Chun a little bit of credit here as well. Look at that transmog, man. What do you say about that?
He looks like Voldemort. Let's see who decides to open up on. Chun-Li still sitting in stealth. Rosita Jones going to be putting out a little pressure as they do look to open on Flop. Large amounts of damage on Flop as he's forced to trade out the Trinket and Barkskin in the opener. That is not what you want if you are that Restoration Druid. This is a nightmare situation. The full blind lands. They have the sap out of that. They're playing this basically perfect. Can Dodge get the sap? They get the ring. They do manage to get it. And now Flop, he is in so much trouble. That next kitty shot, they might just kill Chun. They're going after the rogue. Unfortunately, the sap breaks. A bit of a misplay there by Rosita, sending out that arcane orb. That could have just been GG.
Yeah, that was extremely fortunate already here for Where's GOURDY, and now it is time to get some damage going here. It's a rogue race right now. Chun-Li with no trinket, he's got no cloak. He just popped that evasion. I think he might have gotten the kidney shot right there, where he tried to, and there is the banished cheap shot into the kidney shot onto Chun-Li. Smoke bomb coming out, but they don't have the damage to back it up here. Rosita Jones not finding those arcane blasts just yet. Naj now in a kidney shot, full blind onto Flay. No, it's a DR blind onto Flay, and Flay will happily sit through that, trades out the pain suppression, and Naj should be somewhat fine here with that. Of course, it depends on how much damage these mages can put out. In Cubsy here, running around here, I think he actually is playing that classic Cubsy build with no trinket and that blink stun talent. Naj dropping dangerously low here, catches another big rapture heal. There's the penance as well from Flay, keeping him nice and topped so far. Rosita Jones also running down to the pressure. Naj forced to trade out the Cloak of Shadows, full kidney shot onto Flay. Can they get anything to follow that up? Doesn't look like it, and they might have been able to if Cubsy was playing that Shimmer, but a lot of these NA mages opting for that blink stun so far. Now able to get a restuff, looking for that next attack. Could be a cheap shot there onto Flop to set up the sheep. Can they get the polymorph? Cubsy denies it, goes for the sheep onto Flay, gets deft there as well, and Rosita Jones not able to find that sheep onto Cubsy. So far both teams hold on, and I think the Druid will have the advantage in terms of mana if the game goes on for a little bit longer here, man.
Yeah, arcane missiles flying all over the place on these rogues as both seem to be the main target. Interrupt on Flay, kick into a gouge. But it does look like Naj should be okay for the time being in terms of mana. Flop a little bit ahead at this point in the game. We'll have to see where they decide to go. You can see Naj just has his back against the wall. Does not want to give a kidney shot to Chun-Li, but there's the Shadow Step kidney on a Naj. Large amounts of damage incoming. Looks like Flay is kind of trying to range some of the incoming crowd control. Chun-Li gets a gouge on Rosita. Naj still incredibly low, but he goes for the vanish play. Looks like they need to get some counter pressure here. Silver Sentinels, they had such a good start, but outside of that opener, it's been really difficult for them to find pressure in this match. It's mostly been Naj on the back foot, and he could just easily go down. Cubsy throwing in the missiles. He's got the barrage, and Naj forced to trade out his Shadow Meld for a re-stealth. Now Rosita Jones blocked, and all of a sudden, where's GOURDY? Their pressure is just so immense in this match.
Yeah, definitely a lot of pressure coming out here, and one of the key differences is that Rosita Jones is playing that Shimmer, whereas Cubsy is not. So Cubsy opting for defense, Rosita Jones opting for the offense. He's down on ice block, and the good thing about that Shimmer is you can go for polymorphs, but Flop's been doing a great job avoiding those setups, and even when they get that cheap shot for setup, Rosita Jones hasn't been able to find it. Naj dropping dangerously low now once again with no cooldowns left. He's going to have that Cloak of Shadows coming back up momentarily, but he did have to use his trinket right there, and next kidney shot from Chun-Li could be lights out. The depth mark as well, rolling right now. There's a kidney shot onto Chun. He trinkets out. There's the disarm. Here comes the damage. Flay does access that void shift, keeping Naj alive, but still another kidney shot is waiting for Naj here. Chun-Li, as soon as he comes out of that disarm, it could be danger time. Naj realizes that and actually changes it with that blind. Naj now looking for the sap. Can they find it? Doesn't look like it. Naj now finally with the kidney shot onto Chun-Li. Actually gets knocked into the ring right there by Cubsy. Love to see that. Now finally Chun connects with the kidney shot, the gouge onto Flay. Here comes the damage. Naj as well with the death mark rolling, doing tons of counter pressure, but forced to run here while that death mark is rolling, buying him a little bit of pressure. Now going for that Garrett from stealth, that empowered Garrett. Now Flay as well with the master spell, with extra damage, with that power infusion, but I feel like Rosita Jones needs to go for the solo setup at this point. He's playing that Shimmer. They're going after Cubsy. Cubsy dangerously low. Cubsy in the ice block here. Oh, they do tie it up in the mage race, but now Chun also getting pressured heavily. Huge damage coming in. Chun exploding right there from that damage. Flop is not able to keep him up there. And now you can see a big smile there on his face, realizing that situation was not looking good. And you got to give Naj a lot of credit there. He was dead for sure, but he does the disarm right before he's about to get kidnapped, and then he changed that disarm with the defensive line just to buy himself time, just to buy his healer some time. I think Flay actually sat down for a little quick tick there as well during that moment. And I think this is the opener here. You can see that orb breaking that sap onto Flop. If I think actually might have just died if he didn't do that, but it could have been a win in the opener type of situation. But then they were able to bring it back there for a second, and then Silver Sentinels were able to get the kill eventually.
Yeah, just a really back and forth game, and it's got to be heartbreaking for Where's Gourdy. Chun-Li had about 1 second left on that vanish, and that probably would have kept him alive in that situation. So really, really close call. You can see Naj right now getting incredibly low, gets the life swap there by Flay. It's going to keep him alive. Another big kidney shot here on Naj, and you can just see close call after close call. But Naj playing it very well defensively. And Naj has just been such a solid rogue in North America for such a long time. Playing all the specs at such a high level. He's been in these situations many times, and he plays it really calm, cool, and collected, even when he is under so much pressure. And they're able to kind of get the reversal here. See Flop, he has to trinket a polymorph, and Chun-Li just gets lower and lower. He has 1 second on that vanish. It was just kind of an overwhelming amount of damage, and I just don't think that Flop had any of the necessary kind of burst healing and cooldowns he needed. So even though he wasn't in crowd control, the damage was too high at that point. The damage had been done. But yeah, I could easily see the series going to a game 5 with how close this was.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to come down to a couple of things, some differences between the mage specs and also the healer choice as well. I think, a lot of people are opting more and more for that priest. They got a lot of buffs. And the priests are just looking very solid, adding in a lot of extra damage, having a lot of cooldowns to rotate through. But I feel like a big weakness for the priest is that you actually are susceptible to crowd control. That is an edge for the druid. However, Cubsy is playing with regular blink and no trinket. And I feel like, I know, we discussed this a little bit as well, Van. You're kind of on camp blink stun, and I'm kind of on camp shimmer. So how do you feel about this? Like, what do you think? Do you think Cubsy should actually play the Shimmer here, play more offensive? Because they are going after the rogue anyway most of the time. I feel like the mage isn't a good target. Or do you think he should play a little bit more with that safe strategy, and they maybe can try to dampen with the druid, or try to win the game in the long game?
It's hard to say exactly. I feel like for Where's Gourdy in this one, it did feel like outside of the opener, they were winning most of the game. Like, for a majority of the game, it felt like they were doing really, really well. And it seems like both teams don't really want to opt to go after the mage. So, yeah, I could see definitely a case for Shimmer and trying to get more polymorphs onto Flay. But it seems like the way they play it is a lot more like Windwalker mage, for example, where Cubsy isn't the one who's necessarily always pushing for crowd control. He's more about just, playing defense, letting Chun-Li get the gouges, just like he would with the Paralyze. He kind of set up his team. Every single kidney shot is met with a gouge, just like every single leg sweep is met with a Paralyze. So I kind of wonder if that is, it's more of like a comfort thing for them. You can see right now as well, just to give a shout out to Naj. She's streaming at twitch.tv/Naj. All of the competitors are able to stream their games. Not all of them do, but if they are, definitely recommend going and checking them out. It's nice to see, the games from their point of view as well. So yeah, big shout out to Naj there. But yeah, Where's Gourdy? They're going to be locking in the same thing. Arcane Mage with Cubsy, Chun-Li on that Assassination Rogue, and a Flop on that Wrestler Druid. But yeah, we'll see what they decide to do on this one. Ashamane's kind of a neutral map for these two teams, I would say. I'm trying to think of like what Silver Sentinels can really do. Like, I did like them going after Flop, but it feels like as the game kind of develops, if they do go after Flop too much, Chun-Li is just going to be able to put counter kidneys onto Naj, dismantles onto Naj, Gaz on Naj, and it might be difficult for them to actually take down Flop. And then you kind of fall behind on that rogue race.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think if they can get a good opener on Flop, it definitely, gives them kind of a nice boost in pressure. Also, forcing out his trinket, getting that blind sap, they might just win outright in the opener on the rogue. So I think that's a pretty solid strat, but I think it's going to come down mainly to the rogue race. And I feel like for, the playstyle of Where's Gourdy, I think they want to outlast. They want to just have Cubsy spamming a lot of purges, sitting back, doing a lot of damage. And I'm not sure how it's going to go, to be honest, because we really haven't seen these new talents kind of come into play, especially for the Disc Priest. So I really don't know. In theory, Druids usually win that game, but I also feel like Priest in general has been a really good kind of dampener healer in this patch because they received a lot of buffs, and having that extra damage can definitely go a long way. Flop was winning on mana, but I feel like he also struggled more with healing the pressure. So we're just going to have to wait and see, get more data points here. This is the first time we see the RMD versus the RMP. Cubsy is not running a trinket, which means he's going to most likely be running that blink stun. We'll see if Rosita Jones swaps to it as well, or if he decides to stick with the shimmer. I feel like if there's one person in this lobby that should, or in this lobby, I've been playing too much Solo Shuffle. If there's one person in this game who should be playing the blink stun, it would actually be Rosita Jones, because I feel like he's not actually going to have an easy time getting CC on a Druid, especially not one that is as good as Flop. He was able to do it at the end of last match, but I feel like it's definitely a tough situation to be in as the mage trying to get those polys on the Druid. And I think a lot of the time you win with that kleptomania and just with raw pressure that they can't out heal. But the game is live. We're going to see exactly what they decide to do. They actually sap Rosita Jones. Cubsy already spamming out the purges, going for the Dragon's Breath. Can he actually get a sheep immediately here by Cubsy? Beautifully done there. Already getting decent pressure here on the mage, but Rosita Jones actually fake casting that kick, getting that precog talent, doing a lot of work, and he does get the Ring of Frost. You see Rosita Jones is moving in here for the blast wave. Can he find it? You'd love to see that. That is the big blast wave coming in, forcing out a trinket there on that blind into a little bit delayed ring, but definitely a hole-in-one right there.
Yeah, doing a great job. Chun-Li taking a little bit of pressure right now. He's got no Vanish, no Cloak of Shadows. This is a big kidney shot. It could easily be his trinket, but no Flop. Does look to have the healing to keep him alive. He's going to use that pre-tranquility to just avoid some crowd control, get some healing on that smoke bomb, and he keeps Chun-Li alive. Expertly done. At the same time, Naj getting counter-pressured here in the kidney shot. He gets gripped away by Flay, the safety of the pillar. And Team Silver Sentinels, they are going to be at this pillar right now, just trying to recover from that situation. Naj pushing forward, getting some bleeds on Cubsy, potentially going after Cubsy here, but Cubsy getting a huge Arcane Surge, going to be able to put out some burst damage. And it looks like he's just going on a solo mission on Rosita, going down to 1% health. Cubsy almost just takes him out, KO. A bit lucky for Rosita Jones to survive there. I didn't even see that health bar.
Yeah, Rosita Jones has been a target in this matchup, so we'll see if Rosita Jones actually can stay alive here, because he is playing that shimmer, so every single one of these kidneys will be full duration here, and that could be a way for Rosita Jones to potentially go down here, but huge damage coming in onto Chun-Li. The Arcane Surge comes in, the kidney shot disarm combo coming in there as well. Naj trying to get a little bit of extra damage going. Cubsy, though, look at him in the back line, just spamming out the spell steals, spamming out the arcane blasts, just doing a lot of damage here, completely free in the matchup. Rosita Jones, a little bit more close quarters here with these rogues, kind of just playing on top of them. He actually blinks on top of the enemy rogue right there. Ring of Fire coming out here for Cubsy, and now Cubsy's going to be a target as well here. They're going after Cubsy. Cubsy with the greater invis. Could be completely fine, though, as he does receive some healing over time effect. Catches a big heal there with that regrowth from Flop. Mana tied up here between the healers. Chun forced to trade out the Cloak of Shadows. Naj actually trinketing as well there. Going for the full blind here. No trinket for a couple of seconds. They do get the Ring of Frost as well. Flop actually sitting through this one, though. Chun on that stun DR. They're going after Cubsy a little bit, but Cubsy playing it beautifully, gets that counterspell, gets the defensive alter timeout, actually spell steals the power infusion. Rosita Jones in execute range, and he will go down. Cubsy, what an insane player. Look at that turnaround at the end there. He's the target. They got the CC on his healer. and his rogue is just kiting. John is he's used to this, he's been playing Windwalker. He's been playing Windwalker all day long. He knows these lobbies, or these matchups where he's consistently just forced to run around and try to kite. And Cubsy alters, spell steals the power infusion, and gets that counter pressure beautifully there at the end. That was really good.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, Cubsy kind of MVPing there, really setting up his team. He's the one that actually got the ice block from Rosita Jones with zero help from Chun-Li. It's some beautiful plays, beautiful pressure in this match, but it was very back and forth. You can see here, this is the moment where Rosita Jones, I think, goes down to like literally 1% health. Look at how low he gets. Lower and lower. You can't even see his health. It's so low. And that's where they force out the ice block. And this is just some beautiful plays coming in from Cubs. You really want to highlight him on that Arcane Mage. So you see Flop right now is in a blind. They want to follow it up with a Sap or a Ring of Frost, and they do manage to find it. Chun-Li knows he's in trouble, so he just gets out of there. He pops a sprint. He's gone. But you can see Cubsy gets the counter spell on the Polymorph, stopping the follow-up damage, and then just goes to town with Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast, Missile Barrage, and Rosita Jones gets absolutely destroyed. So really good plays there by Cubsy, and they managed to tie it up.
Yeah, absolutely insane. He also gets the power infusion. Yeah, he has it right here actually as well. Cubsy definitely annoying with those spell steals, playing with that regular spell steal in this matchup. Solos Rosita Jones, gets the power infusion there at the end as well. And you highlighted it perfectly there, landing that counter spell, because that is when the Arcane Mage is the most susceptible to going down. Whenever you get a kick, especially a long kick like the counter spell, you see Rosita Jones, he's trying to fake it there, but Cubsy, he goes for the lockout right there, the late lockout on the poly, gets the PI, and then boom, boom, boom. And then he gets the barrage, the barrage execute there as well. So really nicely done there by Cubsy. And he actually got an Arcane Blast as well before that last Arcane Barrage. So he actually gets that, what is it called, Nether something? The buff. Basically, when you Arcane Missiles, your next Arcane Blast does more damage when you use the proc. So he also gets that for that last little finisher there. Little nice burst rotation there from Cubsy. Ties it up, and we're going to Hook Point. Smaller map, favors, I think, the disc priest, more fears, just easier time to be aggressive, and we are going to see some of those talents here. But
definitely, you can see some of the differences. Big shout out to the AWC Companion as well. Kind of a new expansion. We're very early on in the tournament season for Dragonflight, so if you are interested in what these players are running, you can go to awc.gcd.tv. And you can check out their builds. You can see their talents, how they're gearing, what gems they're using. It's very useful to kind of pick up some information. If you play Arcane Mage, you can see some of the differences between Cubsy and Rosita Jones with their builds, what PvP talents they're running, etc. But we are going to be going to Hook Point. Where's GOURDY? I think there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to be locking in the same thing. It seems like this is kind of their bread and butter composition. I think Chun-Li, obviously he prefers to play the Windwalker, but with how powerful Assassination Rogues are right now, and the fact that Chun-Li has actually played Rogue, he picked it up in Shadowlands. So the fact that he's playing Rogue in Shadowlands, kind of a natural transition for him on the Assassination Rogue right now, and it's worked out pretty well for them. They're still in that upper bracket. And right now they are all tied up with Silver Sentinels. And I would say, even in game number 1, even though this is all tied up 1-1, I just get the feeling that if this matchup keeps playing out the way it has, that where's GOURDY is going to walk away with a 3-1 win. I really want to see Silver Sentinels kind of mix it up. I do like when they go after the Druid, but it just seems like they're forced into this kind of defensive position as RMP right now. And I wonder how they can change that up, because it seems like just going after Chun-Li, he's got full Druid Hots. It's not working out so good. The Kleptomania is really, really strong. I'm wondering if Rosita Jones is running. It looks like he is, yeah. So into the rest of Druid makes a lot of sense that you're going to be running that. And that's going to be the opening for them to take down the Rogue. But I just feel like with how well Cubsy's playing defensively, it's been difficult for them to find those openings.
Yeah, there is, there's so many good talents to play, and that's another thing that you mentioned right there. Obviously, Rosita Jones playing into the rest of Druid, going to be sending that Kleptomania PP talent, but he is playing that Mass Invis and that Precognition, whereas Cubsy is not playing the Precog, he's playing the Mass Invis, and he's playing Arcane Empowerment. So Cubsy, if he was on the RMP side, maybe he would play Klepto, and instead, he is still running for that arcane empowerment. Allows him to get more missile stacks, allows him to get more missile damage, and it works well with his playstyle. You know, it is a bit of a different playstyle. A lot of people don't actually go for it, but just spamming spell steal spends a decent amount of mana, and that actually builds up those procs. So you can just spam spell steal over and over and over again, and then you go for a big hit with just arcane missile spam. So it's a decent playstyle, and Cubsy does like to go for it. And I wonder actually if you know, the arcane empowerment is actually worth it. The Ring of Fire is also an interesting adaptation. I will say, on the Rosita Jones, I think I would much rather see him play either Ring of Fire, probably just play the Ring of Fire instead of the Precognition, because I feel like the Precognition, it doesn't actually get that much value unless there's a lot of micro CCs in the game. In this matchup, like, he's not gonna really get, you know, Shane kicked that much. You know, most of the time the rogues are hitting each other, and they need their shadow steps to actually get to the rogue, to get the shadow step kidneys, etc. So it's very rare actually that you get shadow stepped and killed, and it's just a counter spell, you know. And even if you fake it, the precognition immunity doesn't really do that much. There's no, you know, there's not a lot of micro CCs that you're gonna be hit by. It's you know, like if you're playing against, let's say, a demon hunter, and you fake a kick. Well, even if you fake the kick, you might get stunned by a fell eruption. You might get imprisonment. You might get chaos nova. You know, there's a lot of micro things that can still stop you from casting. But against the mage, there really isn't that much, unless you're in melee range, you know, with Dragon's Breath and Blast Wave. But those are, you know, kind of anomalies. So I want to see Rosita Jones actually swap out of that precog, go for either a Ring of Fire, or go for maybe something spicy like the Arcane Empowerment himself. And I think actually if they do go to a large map, they could maybe try to play the mana game and just spam spell steal the whole game as well. Kind of take a page out of where's Gordy's book. Could work as well, because that way they for sure will have the mana advantage against the Druid. So there is, you know, some small talent changes that can make a big difference on the map. It just depends on how you like to play the matchup. Klepto is always going to be better if your end game is to pressure somebody and win with pressure. You know, like we saw in game number 1, for example, where, you know, the Druid, he presses Overgrowth, you press Klepto, and you just send somebody before he can actually catch back up on healing. But if your end game is to win on mana, which it could be as well, then a regular spell steal for sure is better. So there's, you know, pros and cons to both of those. But yeah, it's interesting to see kind of the mage differences and the difference in playstyle as well.
It seems to me that one of the only things that's actually good into Assassination Rogue is Subtlety Rogue. And I kind of wonder in this matchup if this is a time where Naj should actually be playing the Subtlety Rogue, and if that would give them kind of the overwhelming pressure to take down Chun-Li in like a smoke bomb or a shadowy duel or something like that, or eventually go after Cubsy a little bit more in the match. I'm not sure, but there is still adaptations that they can make. The first adaptation is going to be that small map. So Silver Sentinels, this tells me that they want to be able to get on flop, either attack him or just enable Flay a little bit more in the match to actually land fears, because that is one of the big advantages of having a priest. You can actually push in, get those psychic screams, AoE fear, that allows you to really set up for your team. But it looks like they do want to open up on a Cubsy. Really aggressive here, and they might be able to take him down. Can they get the ice block? His kidney shot onto flop on his trinket, so an immediate swap here. Cubsy is still a little bit low, as both Rosita Jones and Flay just trying to get out maximum pressure, and maybe they realize how much damage Rosita Jones was taking in that last match, and they want to kind of emulate that on Cubsy and really pressure the enemy Arcane Mage.
Yeah, definitely. They got a great opener there, but I don't like what Naj did there. He actually trinketed, I think, a disarm, or maybe it was the kidney, and it was kind of an offensive trinket there. I would have much rather seen them just kidney flop like they did, get disarmed, and then swap the play up, try to go for that Ring of Frost there instead, and go back onto Cubsy, see if they can push the ice block. It's those, you know, split-second decisions that can definitely cost you. They're going after Chun-Li, though. Chun-Li taking a lot of damage, but Naj is the one in trouble. I mean, Naj has no cooldowns left. Chun-Li at least still has his trinket. He still has, you know, a Shadow Meld, I believe, as well, to access. And Cubsy, very annoying with the position. Here we go. Rosita Jones, he's seen this movie before. Execute, it's mid-air. Rosita Jones with the ice block. I think that was an execute crit actually coming out, and there's that Ring of Fire burning down everybody on the side of the Silver Sentinels. And Cubsy is doing so much damage here. He still has this ice block in his back pocket, despite being the one who got opened on. Flop, however, is, I would say, the real target here for the Silver Sentinels. They need to get something going offensively. They're going after Chun-Li. Chun-Li also with no Cloak of Shadows. And Flop actually playing that Nori spec, by the way, which we haven't discussed, but that is kind of new in this patch as well. And we haven't really seen any Druid run with that, but can be very effective too. Naj though taking huge damage here, dropping quite low. The execute range again onto Naj there as he does duck for cover. Cubsy basically being the tank for his team right now does decide to duck back. Flop sitting down for a drink, and Chun-Li actually getting sapped there for a second as they do look for that next setup onto Chun, but Flop is there again in the back line, spamming out the heals, keeping him nice and healthy for now. For that next kidney shot, at least when he comes out of it, Chun should actually have access to his Cloak of Shadows, so I'm not that worried about Chun. And now they go for another play here, kidney shot onto Flay. Rosita Jones dangerously low here. Can they take him down? There's the execute coming out, defensive blind onto Chun-Li, and that pain suppression from Flay will keep him alive. But where's GOURDY is just running away with this, man. Your prediction might come right.
Yeah, this is looking really good. Cubsy going for a big arcane surge here onto Naj. Powered barrier will drop down. Naj, of course, has a Cloak of Shadows as well, but that gives Cubsy the damage buff, and he get some damage here onto Rosita Jones. It could be absolutely devastating. Cubsy getting lower and lower as Rosita Jones looking to pressure him away. Dragon's Breath onto Naj. And now, once again, where's GOURDY? They're pushing in. They want to go after the mage if they can. Rosita Jones will be getting out of that stun. And this is not what you want if you are the Silver Sentinels. Like I said, if you're playing the Rogue Mage Priest, you want to be enabled in the matchup. You want to have Flay pushing in. Rosita Jones getting incredibly low. He might just get dropped. We're looking for a double kill here coming in from Where's GOURDY. Flay is having such a difficult time keeping them alive. He's in a kidney shot right now at 10% health. Will catch some heals. Good heals there by Rosita Jones, but he gets interrupted by Chun-Li, and just pressure is so far in favor of Where's GOURDY. But at the same time, Chun-Li has used so many of his defensives offensively. He doesn't have anything left. If they can stay alive just a little bit longer, they might be able to take him down. After that Iron Bark, I really feel like Chun-Li could get dropped. The next kidney shot on him could be absolutely devastating. They got to set it up. Dragon's Breath on to Naj, but Rosita Jones is so incredibly low. I don't think they'll have the time to actually do it. He gets kicked. He's just so low. Penance coming in from Flay. One more kidney shot, though, on to Chun-Li. Can they do it? Naj is just not there. He's not going for that line of play, and this is just looking so one-sided at this point. Flop really doesn't have the healing cooldowns. Here it is, the setup they need on Chun-Li. Can they take him down? Big arcane surge from Rosita Jones, but he's just full health. The healing from Flop in the back line. And at this point, Silver Sentinels, they are just getting overwhelmed. Naj once again taking a big hit of damage. The powered barrier. Play doing a really good job rotating through those defensives. But Zico, I don't think he can sustain much longer.
Absolutely. That Ring of Fire is just doing so much work right now. Burning through again. And there's a kidney shot onto Chun-Li. One-hit wonder. And they actually take him down. Unbelievable. That is exactly what they needed right there. They find the moment to take him down in a smoke. Well, look at Naj there. He's so happy. Laros as well, watching from the bench with his heart probably dropping at that point. But they do manage to find the swap there. 2-1 up now in the series for the Silver Sentinels. But I got to say, Where's GOURDY were winning basically that entire game. And then they managed to find that one moment there with the stun, with the smoke bomb. All three members connect with massive burst damage. And you see here Rosita Jones almost getting sent right there. That execute definitely doing some work. And here you can see, I think it was Rosita Jones almost going down there behind the pillar. And he does manage to recover barely there. Flay doing a good job there, keeping him alive, line of sighting that kick. And I think here is the final couple of moments on the game. Naj almost dying here as well. The powered barrier does come in. Rosita Jones gets shadow step kick, and then they find this split second here where they isolate Chun. And Chun, he's got no trinket, he's got no defensive, so the only way he goes down here isn't that stun. And there it is, kidney, smoke bomb, dark reprimand, arcane blast, arcane barrage, and that touch of the magi as well. Wow. Coming in, doing big damn. And I think that was actually a power infusion as well there. So huge burst damage coming in.
Look at Flay's damage. I mean, he's almost up there with Rosita Jones on that Discipline Priest. And that is the thing about the disc, is when you are enabled during those moments, you can do almost as much damage as a pure DPS. So it's very powerful. And although it felt like Flop, Cubsy, and Chun-Li were winning most of the game, if Chun-Li gets a little bit too aggressive, you know, with his Cloak of Shadows, with his Vanish, and all of a sudden he doesn't have any outs, all it takes is one kidney shot with a Kleptomania, right? And all of a sudden Flop is there's not too much he can do to answer, especially as dampening gets higher. They just won't die. Silver Sentinels, they're just hanging on by a thread. You got to give a lot of credit here to Flay, rotating through a lot of his damage reduction cooldowns, the pain suppression, the barrier at the right moments. And even though everybody's kind of low, he's keeping everyone stable and finding these opportunities later on in the game to actually win. So even though Silver Sentinels is up in the series, the games are not looking good for them. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean, and I kind of agree. It felt like in the first game, aside from the start, it felt like Where's Gordy was winning the entire match, and then they just got kind of global. And it felt like in this game as well, they were winning the entire match, and then they got global. I will say though, I mean, we probably don't have the breakdown, but I feel like that was a lot of damage difference there between the mages, and I think it's because of that Ring of Fire. Now, we probably are going to see the same thing here, a large map. Whereas Gordy, they want to opt for that with that Restoration Druid. So I wonder actually if they will continue playing that Kleptomania, or if they will try to switch it up, because mana was actually tied up there between the healers. So maybe just spamming Spell Steal. So we'll see if Empyrean Domain, by the way, which is our brightest map, Venruki, just like your smile brightens my day. If I have a sad day, I watch Venruki, and when Venruki has a good day, so do I. I love Venruki, and I hope he smiles so we can all have a good day.
Well, I'm having a great day, so I'm glad you are too. And I feel like I've heard that before somewhere. It's just, you come up with that?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, we are going to the brightest map of the pool, also a very large map. And I feel like it's interesting because although Where's Gordy seems to want to play on the large maps, the small maps didn't feel bad for them, right? Like it actually felt like Blackrook, or not Blackrook, I can't.
Hook Point.
Hook Point. Thank you very much. I don't know. I can't think of Hook Point right now, but yeah, it seems like Hook Point actually worked out really well for them, right? Like it seemed really easy for Chun-Li to actually push in, play on top of the priest, kind of have pressure all over the place on the mage, the priest, as well as the rogue. So in terms of pressure, I actually didn't mind the small map for Where's Gordy. And even though Hook Point's the smallest map, it still felt like Flay was not enabled in the match to ever really push in, ever get fears. Silver Sentinels playing, it seems like they're playing kind of a long game strategy. And I don't know if that's what they are intentionally trying to do, or it's just the position they're kind of put in this matchup. But it seems like they're kind of playing the long game, waiting for dampening, and just like slowly working through those cooldowns while barely holding on.
Oh, and there is the breakdown. You'd love to see that. So, Rosita Jones and Cubsy. And where's the Ring of Fire in this breakdown? Do you see it?
There.
Actually,
This is a comparison, right? So, because Rosita Jones doesn't have the Ring of Fire, I don't think they can compare it. That makes sense. I think, anyways, makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, that is unfortunate. But still, you can see, it's pretty similar.
There we go.
There we go. You see? Ring of Fire at the second spot right there. You see how much extra damage that is? Cubsy doing 1 million extra damage because of that talent. And I gotta say, precog was completely useless for Rosita Jones. He had it like once the entire game. I feel like get rid of the precog, get the Ring of Fire. That's where all the damage is coming from for Where's Gordy. I think the Ring of Fire for sure is the move for them. And if he doesn't go Ring of Fire, I want to see him. He could just actually copy Cubsy's talents and go no Klept and go Ring of Fire and then just try to flop, because I feel like that actually is a strategy that people haven't really explored, which actually could be very, very good.
Yeah, definitely. Just spam out the Spell Steal. Kleptomania is just so good for those burst windows, but yeah, potentially just spamming and mashing out the Spell Steal could be effective as well. We'll have to see if they do decide to make any kind of adaptations there. Silver Sentinels just one away from sending Where's Gordy down to the lower bracket. But like I said, the matchups, both games Silver Sentinels won, it felt really sketchy. So I feel like the score isn't necessarily indicative of how these matchups have looked, at least to me. So we'll see what Chun-Li is able to do here. And if Where's Gordy can kind of seal the deal, because they're getting everybody low. There's so many opportunities in the match in both game number 1 and game number 3, but they just can't close them out. And that's what they're going to have to do in this match.
Yeah, and that is exactly how I feel as well. I feel like Warriors GOURDY has been winning until they lose. So we'll see if that actually stays. Cubs are going for the fishnet right there. That mass invis into a Ring of Frost, which is invisible there for Flay. Cubsy not able to do too much with it. They're going after flop though. Here comes the kidney shot. There comes the damage. Chun-Li with the double, triple Garrett right there into a DR cheap shot now onto flop. Flop's taking a lot of damage here. Rosita Jones connecting there with the Kleptomania as well, and that will be the renewal and the Battle Master. Much better start though. Flop only using his personal cooldowns, holding on to the Iron Bark, holding on to the Tranquility, holding on to basically everything. Naj taking huge amounts of damage here. Cubsy going for that Ring of Fire again. As soon as they are at the pillar, he loves to press that button. Cubsy getting kicked actually, but I think it was on a fire school or on shifting power potentially, because he is able to cast out those arcane missiles. And now once again they have them cornered kind of at the pillar, and this is the situation where Warriors GOURDY likes to be. Just have Flop in the back line spamming out the heals, enjoying himself, and just let Cubsy poke them, let Chun-Li get those bleeds out, and we are gonna have to wait and see here where that next kidney shot comes. Naj actually forced to use his Vanish right there, opening up onto Chun-Li. The Death Mark is active right now for Chun-Li. Chun-Li actually trinketing there, trying to get some counter pressure. They do get a Ring of Frost there, and Naj getting huge amounts of damage there from Cubsy, and that will be the swap coming out from Flay right there, and the pressure is mounting here for Warriors GOURDY. Kidney shot onto Flay. They're trying to send Flay here. Do they have the DR bash? No. It will be Flay surviving there with the pain suppression onto Naj as well. Flay still in execute range though, taking huge hits of damage. Rosita Jones now with an arcane surge onto Chun-Li. Chun-Li also taking massive damage there, but manages to stay in with Flop in the back line healing him. He still has that Iron Bark as well. Flop actually melding one of those polys there in the back and actually sitting up for a drink a little bit BM right now. And then he goes for the rake stun. Flop really putting on a clinic here, goes for the rake stun into the full cyclone. Rosita Jones ice blocks. Naj dropping huge in health here, 20% HP. How is he going to stay alive? Flay forced to use his trinket there as well, and Chun-Li has blind in 20 seconds. They could just blind Flay, take down Naj, or take down Rosita Jones, who has no ice block van. It's not looking good.
Yeah, this is an absolute disaster. At the same time, maybe they could find an opportunity here onto Chun-Li. Chun-Li just going to shadow step in. He gets dismantled by Naj, trying to just slow down the pressure a little bit, buying Flay a little bit of time here. Rosita Jones with no ice walk. He's super vulnerable in this match. Cubsy just putting on a clinic to getting out damage. He dropped the Ring of Fire right now if he wanted to get out some additional pressure. But at the same time, Cubsy's been sitting those full blinds, and that's one adaptation that Silver Sentinels has been making, defensive blinds on Cubsy, because he isn't opting to actually play a trinket in this matchup. So he has to sit those full unless he wants to trade out the ice block. Was a little bit risky to do. Beautiful interrupt there coming in from Cubsy onto Rosita Jones, slowing down that damage. Flay now into a full blind. Rosita Jones is in a lot of trouble. He goes for the Shadow Meld, trying to just avoid a little bit of damage if he can, shimmering over to Flay. And it looks like that should be enough to survive. Rosita Jones buys himself some time. Good peels there from Naj as well with the dismantle. Polymorph onto Chun-Li, but Rosita Jones still in execute. So incredibly low, barely holding on. And this match has just not looked good for Silver Sentinels. They need to try to find a miracle moment once again in match number 4. If they can't, I am very afraid for Rosita Jones here.
Rosita Jones on 1% HP. The execute is midair, and he will be shipped right there. Whereas GOURDY ties up, and we are going to be going to a game number 5. Absolutely incredible performance there from Where's GOURDY, and you know, you got to give Flop a lot of credit here, because in a way, he is the reason why this was possible. When he shadow melts a poly from Rosita Jones, and then sits down for a drink to secure kind of the late game advantage. After he's done drinking for a little bit, he goes for the rake stun onto Rosita Jones into the full cyclone. And he does it when they have immense pressure onto Naj. Rosita Jones feels like he has to ice block to actually help out the team there. And then here at the end, they get that win condition with the full blind. And Cubsy does try to fake cast the counterspell of Rosita Jones. Rosita Jones being very patient with it, holding it. So the Shane does get disrupted there, but still, Flay can't actually recover Rosita Jones from that blind bash play that came in there. And he's just kind of hovering around 50%. They're going for that Arcane Surge, they're going for that damage, and they go for that kick into, I believe, actually a counterspell there onto Flay. No, into a kidney. And then in that kidney, they just have so much damage flying in. And Rosita Jones just dies. And we can see it right there again. There's that blind after Flay has to trinket already. And then Flop going in there as well for the follow-up. And even if they don't get the sheep here that Cubsy's trying to get, Rosita Jones just can't recover. You know, they got no void shift as well. And this game felt exactly like the others, but there was no like miracle one-shot that came through for the Silver Sentinels.
Yeah, exactly. Right. This kind of plays out the way game number 1 and game number 3 felt like they should also. And now we're all tied up. And I really worry for Silver Sentinels. You can see the final moments here. An off kidney by Chun-Li, just onto Flay, just making sure that he can't get any heals out. They have enough damage with the bleeds, with the Arcane Mage. They don't really need the kidney shot to take down the kill. And I think that was well done. And you could just see, look at how much pressure Cubsy is putting out in these matchups. There is a significant damage difference between Rosita Jones and Cubsy. And I wonder if maybe they just need to play more of a damage strategy from the side of the Silver Sentinels. Instead of focusing on setups, just put out as much pressure as you can, bleed up Chun-Li, bleed up Cubsy, and try to out pressure them and outrace them that way. I don't know if that actually works for the Discipline Priest versus the Restoration Druid, but it feels like if you can just not take too many chances, make sure you put out as much pressure as possible, and maybe enable your Discipline Priest to get out more damage instead of maybe compromising their position. It could end up working out, but yeah, I don't know. With the way Where's GOURDY is playing this, it seems really difficult for them to find any openings. Flop, I think, is doing a stand-up job, playing a lot like Cubsy would in these type of matchups, right? Cubsy known for just kind of sitting back, picking those moments to push in and get those rake stuns and stuff like that. But I feel like Flop is also just such an impressive druid. He really enables his team in these matchups.
Absolutely. He had a really, really beautiful game there. Forced the ice block, helped the setup, at the end as well. That actually did get him the kill. So yeah, he's been putting on a very nice performance. And I actually don't know about the new kind of druid talents, but I will say from playing druid, I don't have Nourish. I'm playing, the last patches build, and I have been seeing Flop actually going for those really fast casted Nourishes that have been topping people. So I think he is mixing it up there in the druid department as well. He's got something cooking up there, in Moonglade. So I'm not exactly sure what he's running, but it's definitely cool to see, every single time these patches come out, players are adapting, swapping up their talents, mixing it up, and finding ways to still perform on their class instead of just trying to re-roll to whatever is perceived as the best healer. Currently, I guess, Disc Priest. Flay, he is a Disc main, though, so I can't really say that about him either. But
re-roller.
Just speaking in general terms here, not talking about Flay specifically. But I do agree with you. I think we're not going to see it, but I feel like Silver Sentinels, the way that they've kind of built their character and the way they play, I would like to see them to just play that sub RMP and just steamroll offense. I think that is their style, I feel like that's the style that they excel at. Whenever I watch Naj, he's so good at getting those setups. He's good at isolating targets. He's good at finding those win conditions, constantly throughout the game. So I feel like playing to his strength as a player would be bringing in the sub rogue. Maybe they just feel like Asa is a little bit stronger in the matchup, so that's why we're seeing it. The things like the Shiv, the Hemotoxin, very, very powerful right now. So I don't blame them for playing it, but I feel like stylistically, it feels like it would be better. But if they're not going to go with that line of play, I actually want to see them go after Cubsy and just not press kidney. Just bleed Chun-Li and have Cubsy as the main target. He's the guy you're dumping your Arcane Blast at. He's the guy you're dumping your Klepto at. He's the guy your Priest is hitting. And anytime you have a kidney, you can throw it on Chun. You can do a little bit of damage there and just continue to do that. Because I feel like if they do that, they can punish Cubsy's build a lot. I actually feel like it's really difficult when you're playing with that regular blink to survive when people are just tunneling you and never stunning you. Because when they stun you, that actually gives you, an opportunity to use your blink and, get some distance between you and the rogue. But if they never stun you, you never can really use it, because if you do use it, you're going to get stunned. So it makes it a little bit more awkward. If they try to do that, I think it could work.
Yeah, I definitely like to see them go after Cubsy more. I think Kleptomania is also really, really good, because although Cubsy's going to be able to spam spell steal, maybe he wants to get back all those heal over time effects on Rosita Jones once he gets Kleptoed, it can be difficult because you're removing not only a lot of the heal effects that Flop has, but you can also snipe an alter time when Cubsy uses it. You reduce his effectiveness at actually resetting those blinks and his mobility. So I think maybe going a little bit more after Cubsy, having Chun-Li as that off target, exactly like you're mentioning, could definitely be a solid line of play, and maybe even allow Flay, to play a little bit more aggressive in the match. I feel like if you're the RMP, having to sit back and play kind of the Druid matchup. This is the way the Druid wants to play, right? Both healers sit back and kind of just heal the people in the middle. I feel like that is going to favor Flop in this particular match. So Silver Sentinels, I need to find a way, I think, to get more active in the match. Not saying it's an easy thing to do, but if they want to win this series convincingly, at least in this last game, they either need to find that perfect moment once again after kind of just struggling to survive like we saw in a couple of these games, or I think they need to change up their strategy and try to find a bit more of a convincing win.
Yeah, I feel like when they went for Cubsy in that short period of time in the opener, he was actually in big trouble. They got the blind with the flop, forced his trinket. It felt like it was looking kind of good. And we do have the final game of the series here. This is a upper bracket series, and they are going after Cubsy here. I want to see them not use those kidneys, save them for Chun-Li, and that's exactly what they are going to be doing, dropping that smoke bomb immediately and knocking actually Naj out of it, but he shadow steps back in. And now this is exactly the adaptation that they're doing. Look at Chun, he's already forced to use his Cloak of Shadows. Flay gets blinded, he trinkets out. Naj now in a kidney shot, actually moving in there for the blind onto Flop. So both healers trinketing that blind in the opener, and they're just going after Rosita Jones here. Naj trying to make his way back over onto Cubsy. The Arcane Surge does come out here onto Naj. He's taking a lot of damage, he gets disarmed there as well. He's just trying to make his way back over onto Cubsy, get a slow on him. Cubsy's just running around right now in full speed here, doing whatever he wants. Flay actually Shadow Word deaths the polymorph right there that Cubsy does try to get, and now they're pushing in for the fear. Here comes the RMP aggression. Flay looking for it. They get the Garrow, they get the full fear. I don't think they're going to be able to find anything else. Chun-Li with the preemptive vanish right there before he is in trouble, and now opening up once again over onto Naj, getting some damage, but again it's Chun-Li on the back foot here, taking huge pressure, goes for the Shadow Mouth, goes for the Garrow, goes for Battlemaster, but it's not enough. He just gets dropped. Flop still had his nature swiftness, I believe, unless it just came back up there. It felt like it was really hard to recover. Maybe they were just spam dispelling his hots there. Either way, Silver Sentinels close it out 3-2. It was a close one, but this was an upper bracket game, so we are still going to be seeing where is GOURDY a little bit later on in the day.
I really just want to give a shout out to Silver Sentinels. This was their most convincing game by far, and I think a lot of that just comes from being a lot more comfortable with their offense. They actually were pushing in, getting really aggressive in the match, and it just felt like Flop was so far behind. This is exactly what you want. Go after multiple targets. That is what's going to lead to success against the Restoration Druid. You see a kidney shot right now on the Flop. Chun-Li getting bursted down, and Chun-Li, he's got no Cloak of Shadows. He does have his evasion up, but Naj actually goes for a cheap shot to avoid that. And now there's no evasion. Chun-Li trades out his Vanish, a little bit aggressive there, and he basically has 0 defensive cooldowns left. Really not that much he can do, and unfortunately Flop's getting line of sighted here. And Chun-Li also, I think, unfortunately grabs the eye. So just taking an overwhelming amount of pressure from that death mark, 5% more damage from the all-seeing eye, line of sighting Flop for a little bit, and incoming dispels. That was basically just the perfect storm for Silver Sentinels to get aggressive. And unfortunately for Where's GOURDY, even though I think they played a fantastic series, this last game just did not go their way.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to the opener as well. You know, they got the Cloak of Shadows as well in that opener. And if you see here right at the end, look at Chun. He's got basically no hots. Flay's just spamming out the dispels as he's running to Flop. And then Chun goes for the Vanish. And at this point, he opens up, and he's got just a rejuve that's about to expire. He gets a couple of life blooms here. And look at the power of that Kleptomania. There's the Overgrowth. Kleptified. And then he gets dropped, as you said. So it's just... the perfect storm coming out here for the RMP. It was a hard-fought battle, and well played on both sides.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But that does mean the Silver Sentinels will be advancing to the upper finals. I mean, what a kind of miracle run for the squad. Flay, Rosita Jones, Naj, these are kind of household names in North America on these particular classes. It's just awesome to see them kind of come together when RMP is strong and really have a deep run here. So they make it all the way to the semifinals. They're going to be, relaxing for the rest of the day. We will see more from them tomorrow. But that does mean that Where's GOURDY has to go down to the lower bracket to play a series against Shall We a little bit later on. But we have one more upper bracket match to go. Power Men versus Luminosity Gaming. And Power Men, they are back in a big way. They have Thugonomics on that Destruction Warlock. They're playing the Assassination Rogue, Destruction Warlock, Restoration Druid mainly. But they're going up against a very strong team, Luminosity Gaming, which I think for a lot of us, I mean, this team has to be considered the best in North America at this point, right? Like, this is the powerhouse team. Drake, Brain, Prev, Ceralium. The question for me is, can anyone beat these guys? Because they're looking pretty much unstoppable.
That's exactly it, Ben. Like, you know, it's interesting to see. Liquid, they're not going to be joining us here today. They're having the weekend off. Over in EU, the agents had the weekend off. Last week, you know, Poggers, they had not the weekend off, but they had, you know, the Saturday off. The Sunday off. So, you know, there's a lot of inconsistencies among the top teams. But there is one thing that's for sure, and that is Luminosity Gaming. These guys, can they lose? That is my question. It's not like is Powerman gonna win? It's literally, can they lose? You can get them to two. You can beat them twice.
Yep.
But that last win, they always reverse sweep. They're so good at adapting in the same series between the games. They always, like, you know, I guess the Golden Guardians, they were getting absolutely dumpstered. They're down 0-2, 3-2, wins the whole thing. Like,
that happened this week as well. That happened this week as well.
Oh yeah, in the open bracket, right?
Yep.
It's crazy. Luminosity Gaming is just such a powerhouse. So good at figuring out their picks, preparation, and most importantly, adapting between the in a set. So I'm really excited to see what the Powermen can bring to the table here, because Luminosity Gaming looking like an unstoppable beast at this point.
Yeah, can anyone beat Luminosity Gaming? That is the question. The Powermen are going to try after a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. We are getting right into the game. We have the Power Men with Tuna on the Restoration Druid, Dazed on the Assassination Rogue, and Thugonomics on that Destruction Warlock. They are going to be challenging the powerhouse roster of Luminosity Gaming. Sid, can anyone beat these guys?
That's the question of the region. Teams come very close as you can, and then just peter out at that point where Luminosity Gaming strikes back, powers up, and hits them 3 times as hard. So let's see if Powermen can do it with their composition. The only Warlock so far. So Thugonomics will be repping that Destruction Warlock, his main specialization. Curious to see how much pressure he can get out here. Both Rogues just charging right through center field, looking for those early saps. They're going to find a sap onto the Paladin and a sap onto the Warlock, opening up onto Prev. Drake counter engages the cheap shot to peel and immediately steps over to Thugonomics on that Warlock, setting up the kidney shot, denying a ton of damage and setting up Prev for some pressure. Prev's moving in. He's got a stun over onto Tuna. He wants to get a fear out of that. He's marching his way over. He gets the full Psychic Scream. Dazed gets dismantled, but he's low on health as well. They're going to swap back to Dazed here. Tuna now into the silence. Is he going to go down? Evasion trades for him. He needs to make sure he's facing Drake at all times here. Infernal's called in from Thugonomics, but look at the damage right now. Tuna's entire team is devastated. Anybody could die at this point. Thugonomics, he's just going to go down, and Luminosity Gaming completely overpower the Powermen.
What is going on? I mean, I actually cannot believe that the game played out that way. Luminosity Gaming from the beginning to the end. Drake, doing such a good job, just hitting multiple targets, really getting control onto Tuna. This is just an absolute nightmare. And this is what a lot of the pro teams, they have done war games against Luminosity Gaming. And this is what they say happens. If you play a Restoration Druid into them, you just, from start to finish, your entire team is just dead. So you can see Tuna right now, into a fear, into a silence. Days getting lower. What happens after the silence? So Thugonomics is rotting down. Drake goes for a Garrote silence onto Tuna, but you can see Dazed is still just getting incredibly low on health. Thugonomics at the same time. He has Psyfiend on him. It's basically just a full-on panic, and Tuna cannot stabilize his team. Like, I'm so surprised that Thugonomics went down the way he did. That Psyfiend got a lot of value there in the final stages of that match.
So a very big deal here is that Tuna's gear, he's built himself to be a tank. He's wearing full haste versatility. And I've done this on my Druid. Your healing output is pitifully low when you do this. You cannot heal anybody if you have no mastery. And that's the downfall of the build. So Luminosity Gaming, they didn't attack Tuna. He's geared as if he's going to be the primary target for the team. And he's not built to heal his teammates without mastery. It's such a huge deal. Like you're almost not a Resto Druid if you don't have mastery stacked for your character. So he can't keep up with the damage on his teammates simply because of the way he's built his character for this match. And I'm sure that he's seen other Resto Druids just get torn up by Drake and Prev, and that's why he decided to go with this build particularly. But it cannot keep up with basically anything if you run haste versatility as a Resto Druid in 3s at the moment. Otherwise, maybe it would have looked better if they actually attacked him. I don't know if there's something he could do that makes himself look like a better target so he can bait them to hit him because he wants them to play into his gear. But I don't think he can get away with running haste versatility. I think he needs to get more mastery on his gear. Just looking at the build that he's got at the moment from personal experience and from how that game just looked, I don't think he can keep up with the damage.
Interesting. It really felt, Powerman, I feel like that's just one of those situations. That's like a solo shuffle situation for Thugonomics where it's like, nothing's attacking me. Like, just the Shadow Priest is on me. Like, am I going to get any heals? And then he kind of just falls over without using any defensive cooldown. So I think the amount of pressure that Luminosity Gaming was able to get out in those opening stages and how far behind Tuna was not only a surprise to me, but also a surprise to Powerman, because normally this is not what you would expect in a matchup like this. The gearing could be a huge thing for Tuna, but I think more so is just, I don't think they really anticipated the strategy that Luminosity Gaming was going to be going with. These guys are just so unpredictable in their targeting and in their strategies. It can be an absolute nightmare. Let's see if Powerman can hold on a little bit longer in this game, because I do feel like the composition that they have, it's got a shot. Like, if Tuna can somehow keep his team alive, kind of weather the storm, if Thugonomics can get to the point where his fears are sitting full, maybe they have a shot on this one.
All right, Sap's coming out here. Prev sitting through it. Where's Dazed going to go? Is he going to open on Shadow Priest again? It looks like he will. Drake counter engages with Cheap Shot. Shadow Step over for Kidney. Same opener as game 1. Prev is moving in, trying to get aggressive. He's going to be met by a Kidney Shot, trying to stall down that crowd control into Tuna. Tuna going into Tree Farm right away using Innervate immediately so that he's guaranteed to get another one if this match goes long, because mana is going to be a problem if it does sustain for any amount of time. Dazed disarmed on his Trinket during Blind. He can't get a Sap. Really good dismantle there by Drake onto Dazed, stopping that crowd control. Now Prev jumps in, gets a Fear, but he's pushing in pretty deep and getting low, but they're turning it around on a Dazed. He pre-cloaks the Kidney Shot. Tuna's still not comfortable, activates Iron Bark, but he's just struggling to heal Dazed even through all of those defensives. But Prev, in the meantime, gets blasted by Thugonomics. A huge hit back there from Thugonomics in the corner. That's a Warlock you want in your corner, to say the least. Insane pressure out from Thugonomics.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. These games are not going how I thought they would. I mean, they're going quick, but these teams aren't using their defensives. I mean, these are unexpected damage, I suppose, coming in from both sides. Thugonomics landing a big bolt there, but you'll see at the end of this game, Prev has pretty much every cooldown available. Like, Luminosity Gaming, it is not normal where you see them kind of falter and fall over without pressing any of their defensives, but this game was definitely the case. You can see right now, Prev's going to be moving forward, gets a Psychic or into a full Fear. Thugonomics in the backline goes for a beautiful Infernal Stun. This really slows down the damage, and you can see Prev gets Shadow Feared after that. Here comes the Chaos Bolt, and Prev kind of just dies. Like, very unexpected. They literally had every cooldown available, so they had multiple things they could do. But Powerman, I think that was you know, for them, it's kind of just desserts, right? Tying it up that way, because I feel like both these games defensively have been a blunder.
Yeah, I feel like you don't expect that damage from Destro at the moment, because Destro is much more sustain oriented at the moment with Incinerate and Shadowburn, but a Chaos Bolt into Shadowburn or into Conflag with Cremation, like, all of those together is going to end up chunking you pretty hard there. So I'm sure Luminosity Gaming are probably biting themselves a little bit for that one, because they were so far ahead. They basically just got everything from the Power Men, and the Thugonomics just slips it away in the corner there with a Chaos Bolt into Conflag. So let's see if they can manage to duplicate it here, because it's going to be a much smaller map, which means that Tuna's not going to be able to avoid crowd control as long as he did in that last game. Luminosity Gaming is going to be able to run on top of them a lot faster, and I feel like Luminosity Gaming have way more cooldowns to trade than the Power Men if they're able to overrun them. So just get on target, trade the cooldowns ahead of time, rather than waiting until after the damage has landed in a lot of instances here, because it's just not enough to recover. Powerman taking some time to consider their comp. Oh wow, I was thinking, like, maybe they've got something else here on Hook Point. It's a small map. Fuse is going to come in on Death Knight. Dazed still on Assassination Rogue. They're going to go for more of a cleave composition. I'm trying to think if I really like this or not. Like, what, are you going to kill Paladin? I guess you could kill Paladin on this map as this comp.
They've tried this before.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
this is my problem with this composition, is it is so all in. You have no help for Tuna. Like, you literally have no help for Tuna whatsoever, right? Like, there's no mage that's going to be spamming Polys and Novas, Dragon's Breath. There's no Shadow Priest that's going to be able to back him up with, like, a Void Shift, a Mass Dispel. There's no Warlock dropping the Infernals, Shadow Fury, Spam Fear. Like, there's nothing. I feel like Tuna is going to get overwhelmed in this game. Like, I think this is going to be another fast game. Either the Powermen just completely crush Brain by going after him and take down the Paladin, which is possible. But if that doesn't happen, I feel like the Powermen are going to fall behind really quick. I don't know if I necessarily like this pick, but I think it's probably worth them experimenting, because honestly, those first two games, they didn't look good. Even the game that they won, like, they were falling behind rapidly. Luckily, Thug was able to get that win, but I don't blame them for wanting to mix it up here.
All right, trying to take Hook Point in their own favor with this small map. Notorious healer killing composition between Death Knight and Rogue throughout multiple spans of World of Warcraft expansion. So could work out for them. It's high risk. Tuna's going to have all the pressure put onto him to keep himself alive or dazed, as I'm likely expecting those to be the primary targets for Luminosity Gaming. But if they can stay on target and get aggressive, I almost wonder if Tuna could play a Paladin, if that would be better, because then you could bop offensively, bop the kidneys off your DPS, get them on the Paladin even more. I feel like a Druid is just going to be too exposed. You're going to get purged. Your teammates are going to be forced to retreat or pull away because they're getting pressured too heavily. So now that I don't think I'm the biggest fan of a Druid in this position or on this map in general for the Powermen, but they want to mix it up. The Warlock was looking a bit risky of a pick. Where they're happy to take that one win with it, but now they want to try and see if there's something else that might be better.
I mean, let's see if it is better. I'm not convinced at this point, but I would be happy to be proven wrong. I think Luminosity Gaming, they've dealt with these cleaves so much in the past. I mean, we saw it last week into like the Demon Hunter Death Knights or the DK Death Knights. DK Demon Hunter, sorry, and they seem to do quite well into that, even with the Paladin healing. So I feel like Tuna's going to have a lot of work cut out for him here. Goes for the Rake Stun onto Prev out of the sap into the Cyclone, but he gets feared. No, he gets caught into the fear. This is not the start you want, but at the same time, Brain is taking quite a bit of pressure. Good peels coming in from Drake. He gets a full kidney shot right now on to Dazed. Let's see if they can kind of ride that momentum. Brain seems to be stable for the time being. He's going to be kiting away with Freedom. Dazed and Fuse having a bit of a difficult time actually connecting, and it seems like Brain is able to keep himself alive quite nicely with that Avenging Wrath. Now forced to get behind the pillar. Is he going to trade out his Divine Shield? It would be unfortunate. He did use his Trinket there, so it would be kind of a disaster. At the same time, though, Tuna's really falling behind here.
Yeah, Brain gets gripped in. Is he going to go down? He gets a big heal 1 second before that Garrote. He's able to get back behind the fence line. Now Dazed and Fused are rotting down. Tuna's tree farm is over. That's it for them. There's no more steam. There's no more gas left in the tank. Brain walks it off, only trading the medallion and a blessing of protection towards the tail. I think it was more of an offensive bop on a Prev just to close out the game here. A really good place from Brain, and that's the thing is, like, if you're bringing your strategy in, which is kill the healer, and it's Brain, yeah, you need a new strategy. I don't know if that's like, maybe that works one game. It's not going to work multiple times. So they tried to throw a curveball here, run down the Paladin and rush him, but it took so long. Like, if that first kidney doesn't get a trinket or a bop, you're 30 seconds behind. They drop zone here on top of Ironbark and Tree Form, and pretty much as soon as Tree Form is at the end of its run, your Healing as Resto Druid is just going to fall off the face of the earth. So I think the Powermen have to win in the first 30 seconds. Or they just lose the game. So not getting a trinket in the first kidney is basically the end of the game, because then Brain trinkets 30 seconds later, Tree Form is over, and your entire team is dead. You can no longer power through with those regrowths. The Nourish talent is really good as well with the Tree Form, although I don't know if Tuna is running it. I don't think that Tuna is particularly, at least not with what I'm seeing here on the talent build. But it can be good with Tree Form, because you can get 3 regrowths, and then that makes your next Nourish instant with another talent, and that Nourish will heal like as much as a Lay on Hands, so it can be a really good combo. But they just get ran down, purged, overwhelmed. Brain really did a good job. Nice life grip, pulling
He's
Brain
actually in
with Freedom.
tree,
and
even when they lost. He's in tree this whole time. You'll see
I
him.
think it ends literally as he dies. Like,
Let's see.
It's towards the end of that. He's regrowth, he dies,
Still a
and then
tree.
it falls off. So he dies through it, and then it falls off. That's like the end of the road at that point. Like, he's getting purged while he's getting CC'd, so he comes out and he's got no hots, and if you have no hots, regrowth's not doing anything. Maybe that's why he's running haste verse, because the mastery's not going to get as much of a benefit because he doesn't have hots anyways.
The hots are just non-existent, so the mastery's not really going to benefit him. And I just feel like this is just one of those matchups where if you are a Druid main, if you're a Druid main team, like, this is the worst. I feel like this is the hardest thing you could possibly fight. Like, the Shadow Priest Rogue Paladin, there's so much crowd control. You have the offensive dispel of the Shadow Priest, just so much consistent damage in multiple places, which I think is like the nightmare situation for a Druid. It's just the perfect storm. Luminosity Gaming, they have the perfect composition. They play it at an absolute elite level, and I feel like Tuna in this matchup, it's just, Tuna is a very good Druid, but this is just not easy for him. This is a nightmare situation. I'd almost rather him get out of his comfort zone and play the Paladin. Might not necessarily wield a different result, but I think it would make the matchups go a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play like a rush the Paladin strat, I think it would have been really nice for their team there in that last game. This map, Druid might have a better chance. You got max range. You can avoid crowd control more easily. Keep hots up on the Warlock, spread out, make it more difficult for the Rogue to spread bleeds. So I think if Druid's gonna have a shot, it's definitely gonna be on a map like this. They still have a chance to take this to a game 5, but they're kind of like curveball pick there on a small map. If we go to a game 5, I don't really want to see it again unless they have a different healing specialization. to bring to the table. And right here in this match, Luminosity Gaming, they just need to make sure they're using their defensive cooldowns right. Like they went down in that game on Ashmane's Fall with everything still available. Both rogues rushing across the midfield here, trying to get saps. They're not going to find it. Thugonomics and Prev just going to be blasting away at each other, generating some damage, and getting ready for the opener. Dazed opens, but gets peeled immediately by Drake. Now swapping back to Thugonomics for the first kidney shot. Prev into kidney shot as well. Tuna's got efflorescence on the ground, that green circle, so Thugonomics is likely going to bunker down here in this position and only portal if it's absolutely necessary to get maximum healing output. This is a really good mechanic to heal as a Resto Druid when you're getting spam purged, because it's not going to be removed. So we see Thugonomics just dancing in the side of that circle at the moment, trying to get pressure out now that he's been left to free cast. But Tuna's into a stun as well as Dazed. Thugonomics needs to get ready to either get some peels or get some damage out here. He's trying to spam out some fears. He gets fears onto Drake, trying to keep him off of Dazed back as Dazed sets up onto Prev again here, trying to go for the next kidney shot and get a dispersion with it. But Prev is kiting out into the open, potentially baiting Dazed into a swap position. They're going to fear him out of range of Tuna. That pulls Tuna out in the open, but there's no crowd control for him at the moment. So unless they're going to swap to him, no, they're not going to. Kidney shot committed. We see Prev immediately bopped here as it was the death mark. More than a fair trade for Brain in this position. Thugonomics not feeling comfortable. Trades the unending resolve. Tree form is over for Tuna. His healing is going to drop off. He's got no trinket. He's got no tree form. There's no wall on his warlock. This is a very scary position as a druid because you're going to have to keep life bloom on multiple targets and almost kind of guess who's going to be the kill target. And if you guess wrong and don't have life bloom on that target, it's going to be game over.
And definitely Brain having to heal through quite a bit of damage there. Dazed in the meantime, getting really low. Large amounts of damage incoming as Prev is pushing forward. The one thing that is kind of the saving grace for Tuna on this map is they're not really pushing on him. As soon as I say that, Brain will be moving across the map. That's a tranquility to try to avoid some of that damage. And this is the nightmare situation when you have the rogue, priest, paladin kind of playing on top of you. See Tuna right now, he gets caught into a psychic horde. Do they have anything to follow it up? There's the blinding light. Day's still on the run. He's in trouble. There's no cloak of shadows. There's no evasion. He's in a full kidney shot. Good fear though by Thugonomics will free him and allow Drake to get feared away, limit some of that incoming damage. And now Daze can actually get aggressive here onto Prev, and Brain's mana is not looking good. They're falling behind. Huge damage from Thugonomics. That's going to be some cooldowns traded out. Prev doesn't want to be too greedy. Will use the dispersion, but at the same time, Thugonomics is still rotting down lower. There's the Psy Fiend, really getting a lot of value here on Thugonomics. He's going to portal away out of line of sight. Exactly what you want to do. But look at Tuna. His mana is just struggling. Dazed is just going to get dropped. Pressure on multiple targets once again from Luminosity Gaming. They will be advancing to the upper finals, and Powerman unfortunately will be going down to that lower bracket. They're not eliminated yet, but this team is just such a huge obstacle for them. Luminosity Gaming shows dominance once again in another series.
Honestly, this is kind of a heartbreaking game for the Powermen because they weren't winning in any level at all. They weren't winning on mana. They weren't winning on like elongating the game on defensives. They weren't winning the game on pressure. They weren't winning the game on cooldown. Like this would have been their best case scenario. And the game ran out. They used all their cooldowns. They exhausted pretty much every resource that they had, and their leash was just shorter. Even Tuna's getting cyclones here onto Brain, doing a great job, and that got a dispersion from Prev that perhaps they wouldn't have needed to get. But as soon as that's over, they just turn it around, pressure across the board. Everybody is dying. Tuna already used that tranquility shield. Brain's getting aggressive, and it's basically game over at that point. We're rewatching that cyclone point, these cyclones that Tuna got. If Tuna could maybe get more cyclones, maybe is the only thing I'm thinking. Like maybe more cyclones on the DPS, but he'll just get swapped to is the danger of doing that. But as a druid, I feel like if you don't take any risks at all, look, he's completely he has no cooldowns. Like Daze is dead and Thug's at half with no cooldowns. Like what are you really gonna do once you're in that position? You can't really come back from that point. So kind of a grim defeat for them. Obviously, Luminosity Gaming are going to be very confident moving into their next series in the upper bracket on Championship Sunday. They've secured their position. Powerman will have a second opportunity in the lower bracket. I think Golden Guardians are their opponents.
No.
Based on how the brackets flops, which means they have to fight the same comp. And I'm sure the Golden Guardians are like, oh, that looks really good. I'm feeling pretty happy moving into this next series. Like, yep, we'll Shadow Priest Rogue Paladin. All right, easy game, easy life, I guess, for us here in this next round, whereas the Power Men are the ones who are going to be cowering, maybe the Cower Men, as they have to fight the Shadow Priest Rogue Paladins.
I mean, I'd be cowering too. That composition is an absolute nightmare right now. The Shadow Priest, Rogue Paladin, and as well, We do know the Golden Guardians can bring in Absurge on the Restoration Shaman, which seems to be what they like in certain matchups. So that could be something that could make this matchup even more difficult for the Restoration Druid, having to deal with the Shaman purges. Definitely not going to be easy, but we should be able to see the bracket here shortly, the bracket here shortly, and we can see exactly where these teams have fallen in that lower bracket, because we do have 2 series left today. Both of them are going to be an elimination series, and we can see whereas GOURDY will be playing up against Shall We, which should be an interesting matchup. Shall We also playing the Shadow Priest Rogue Paladin, and they're going to be going up against whereas GOURDY, the Arcane Mage Rogue Druid. So a bit of an interesting matchup there. And then, of course, we're going to see probably something similar to what we just saw with the Powermen versus Golden Guardians. And that is just kind of an unlucky draw for the Powermen, because I do feel like that has to be the most difficult composition that they could run into in this tournament.
The bad news for them, even if they make it through, like there's 3 of them, right? Shall We, Golden Guardians, and Luminosity Gaming. So like, if you couldn't beat Luminosity Gaming, which have I would say fairly established themselves as like the best one, just based on their record so far, then you got to fight Golden Guardians. Then you got to fight possibly the next one after that, Shall We. Like, you need an answer, and I think Tuna's got to get off the Druid in this region, which is really interesting when you think about meta between EU and NA. Like, why does nobody try this Paladin Rogue Shadow Priest into the Druids on EU and make them switch when they're struggling? Because it seems like it's really making it tough for the Resto Druids in NA.
Yeah, it's a good question, right? The Restoration Druid and the Elemental Shaman, both going to be super potent in Europe, but I feel like for North America, it's just we have so many Shadow Priests, Assassination Rogue, Paladin / Shaman, that it makes for a really, really difficult rundown. But we'll see how this next one goes. Shall We going to be running that Shadow Priest Rogue, and they're going to be going up against Where's GOURDY with the either Arcane Windwalker or Arcane Rogue. We'll have to see who comes out ahead in this next series after a short break.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just now tuning in, we just came from the upper bracket where Luminosity sent Power Men down to the lower bracket to face off against Golden Guardians for the last series of the day. But we're getting through this series first. It's also an elimination round. It's Where's Gourdy and Shall We on the chopping block, Zico.
Yeah, and where is Gourdy? They just came off of a steaming hot Rogue Mage Druid versus Rogue Mage Priest. Now we got Shall We, which are playing the same composition here, and they did look quite good actually in our first series a little bit earlier. We got Calvish, Kearney, and Corlick, and remember guys, the players are allowed to stream, so make sure to hit up those Twitch links there at the bottom. Calvish, WoW, and Kearney 1K. Don't know if they're live right now, but there's a good way to find out. Head over there and check. And while you're there, you may as well click on the follow button. Same thing goes for Where's Gourdy. We got Flop, we got Cubsy, we got Chun-Li. And it says we have Wealthy Man, which is Gourdy, but I don't think anybody knows where he is. He might be in Ulduar, he might be somewhere else. We just don't know. Most likely going to be Cubsy, though, on that Arcane Mage again. And most likely going to be another Rogue Mage Druid versus Rogue Mage Priest.
Yeah. Gourdy's Hearthstone is in the bank, I think. So he's stuck somewhere in the Badlands. All right, well, we're going into this game. Where's Gourdy? Shall We? Both of them facing elimination. They need these points. We're almost halfway through these cups. Time is running out for both of them. But they've kind of had a good showing this weekend so far. But who's going to be the better team? We've got a mirror as well for game number 1, Zico.
We do not have a mirror for game number 1.
Oh, it's a blue.
We have...
I'm colorblind. I'm sorry, Zico.
Wait, no, sorry. I'm getting mixed up here. Shall We was not a Rogue Mage team. They were playing Rogue Shadow Priest. I completely spaced out. Sorry.
It's okay,
they're playing Rogue Shadow Priest. Rogue Shadow Priest, Holy Pal is what they played into the jungle. But they are going to be bringing in Corlick on the Ele Shaman. Now, I will say Ele Shaman's kind of biggest struggle is that Assassination Rogue and that Arcane Mage going after the Shaman. So we'll see where is Gourdy decides to do. Look at Cubsy here, dropping the Ring of Fire, dropping the Arcane Surge immediately here, trying to go for some fake casts, and there it is, target acquired. LA Shaman behind the pillar, going for that Lightning Lasso on the Chun-Li, and Chun-Li is going to be stuck here behind the pillar. Nice root there, nice Ursul's Vortex as well, trying to build up a little bit of distance here. Frost Shock coming in, but there it is. Chun-Li Shadow Steps over. Here comes the damage. He's going to be applying those bleeds. And look at Cubsy in the back line. Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast, just enjoying himself to the max. They are going to be going after Cubsy a little bit there, but he does manage to knock him back. Now, once again, going after Chun. As soon as he comes off of that stun DR, they immediately send a stun onto him. And now Calvish actually going to be getting that kidney shot and taking a decent amount of damage. And this is the composition that we have seen a little bit in Europe, but we're going to hold that thought for later, as Calvish does drop quite low, forced to use that Gladiator's Emblem, forced to use that Cloak of Shadows, and things are not looking too good so far for Shall We. Already trading out the Rogue defensives, and already some pressure on that Ele Shaman.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on them so far. You can see it continue to mount as well. Chun-Li chasing after him all across the map. So we're... Oh, my God!
Things are not looking good right now for Shall We. Cubsy coming in with a big one right there. That was a fat Arcane Barrage and Arcane Blast combo right there. That's got to be some crits coming in there for the Arcane Mage. What a one-shot.
Definitely. I wonder if we can get a details breakdown of that Arcane, because that was for sure some fat damage. Where's Gourdy taking that game number 1 victory? Very important to get those blind pick wins, and we're going to see how it all went down. But one thing for sure, this is looking like a good start for Where's Gourdy. Yeah,
Gourdy right now, probably watching from somewhere, being very proud over his team, as we can see here. So Calvish, he's got nothing. He's got no cloak. He has a Vanish. He has a Smoke Bomb, but he gets kidneyed, gets bled up in the kidney, takes a decent amount of damage. And the player to watch now is Cubsy. So they're going after Corlick. Chun-Li doing a lot of damage. Look at Cubsy here in the back line. He pops the Fireblood Racial, which gives him a ton of damage. And then here, Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage. That has to be a double crit. There's no way that wasn't a double crit. And I think Cubsy actually is running that 4-set on that mage. So yeah, he is running the 4-set. And the good thing about running that 4-set is that you get a stacking crit buff on your Arcane Barrage. So if you can get that all the way to 40%, your Arcane Barrage can do an insane amount of damage. And that's what we saw here. He probably had a couple of stacks, so it had a higher chance to crit. And then, once you're under that 35% HP, you can get that Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage combo. And he also buffed his Arcane Blast there with the Arcane Missiles. So when you Arcane Missiles, your Arcane Blast does more damage. Your next 2 Arcane Blasts do more damage. And he used Touch of the Magi, and he used his Fireblood Racial, which gives him 875, I think, intellect. And if he removes some buffs, like the Flame Shock, like the Rogue Bleeds, it gives him even more intellect. So I think he does a Touch of the Magi. There, he pops it. There's a Magi. There's Arcane Missiles. And then there's a Blast, boop. Yeah, that is perfect PvE rotation right there from Cubsy. Love to see it.
Yeah, most definitely. So where's GOURDY? Up 1, shall we, on the back foot as we're moving forward in this series. Don't want to be eliminated. That would be detrimental to this team here. So we're going to see what they plan for this upcoming game. But I mean, what do you think about the Ellie Shaman pick here from Corley? I mean, Corley, what can they change as they move into game 2?
Well, if there's one thing I would change, it is the Ellie Shaman. Like, Ellie Shaman, it's more or less a punching bag, You have to play so defensive, which means when you play so far away, your rogue becomes the target, and he doesn't really have that kind of backup. Ellie Shaman is the best when you can be really, really aggressive and do a lot of damage. And sadly, as an Ellie Shaman in this matchup, you can't. You just have to run.
Right.
So I would get rid of that Ellie Shaman, try to bring in a Shadow Priest maybe. Now I have a little map prediction here for that next map. I think we're going to go to Hook Point.
Whoa.
And I'm right.
That was insane. Wow. I don't know how I'm supposed to keep up with you. Those predictions. All right. Well, we've got the compositions as well. We're seeing them go in with the same comps on both sides. Corlick continuing to run with that Ellie Shaman. If you haven't really seen this team play before, shall we? They're usually playing quite a bit of Shadow Priest. So we'll see if they can make it work. We're heading to a much smaller map. So do you think they have anything in particular in mind, Zico, in terms of game winning condition this time around?
Well, I think if I was an Ellie Shaman on this map, I would be lighting a candle right now, saying a little prayer right now, and hoping that we get some nice Ascendance procs, some nice crits, some nice hashtag lava, and earth shocks. That's basically some big BOORST. Basically, is what I would be praying for, because I don't think Corlick is going to survive for a very long time. So I think it's a Druid strat here. I think the angle is the Druid. For shall we? I think they're trying to mix it up here and be bringing in maybe a little surprise, and we're gonna see if they can pull that off. I feel like Flop, despite his name, is actually very difficult to kill as well on that Druid.
Yeah, I think so too, as we've seen time and time again with this team. So we're seeing it get started about 30 seconds in, and already we're seeing mounting pressure onto Corlick. They're really just tunneling him down once again. And we're seeing so much health go down already on the side of Shall We. Where's GOURDY? Certainly having the upper hand already. We're seeing that Tree of Life come out from Kearney and Flop, though. So it's quite a bit of defensive cooldowns across the board. Corlick, however, does still have that Astral Shift, and Calvish's Vine as well. So things are looking maybe a little bit slower so far than game number 1, Zico.
Yeah, already forcing out Kearney's Trinket there with the blind, and they're going after Flop here. And so far, not able to actually land any significant pressure on the Flop. He still has all of his cooldowns. Goes for the Shadow Melt, Rakestone, Calvish behind the pillar. Caught in no man's land there. Already forced to trade out basically everything. Also overlapping his cloak there with his healer with that Iron Bark Cubsy here. Trading out that Dark Iron Dwarf Racial there as well. Calvish in execute range, taking huge damage here. Double Dragon's Breath coming out. Cubsy potentially looking for some crowd control or some damage here. He's trying to reposition a little bit here as he does spam out those spell steals, spamming out those Arcane Barrages, getting that Ring of Fire, gets kicked on it, giving him a second school, but he does get kicked as well on his Arcane Missiles. And then he goes for the Ring of Fire again. He's got the the alter time. Actually, he just procced a arcane surge right there, so kind of the same animation, but Cubsy is going to be fine there, blinking out of the stun, spamming out more spell steals, looking for that pressure onto Corlic. And so far, this strategy from Shall We, they haven't been able to execute on it. You can tell they really do want to go after Flop, but Flop is making it so insanely impossible for them to actually go after him. Arcane Surge getting casted by Cubsy and does get denied. And the person I'm most scared of right now is Calvish. Calvish actually using his Vanish right there. As soon as that Arcane Surge comes out, Cubsy here proccing a Bloodlust. Here comes the damage onto Calvish. Beautiful pump coming in. And Cubsy with the solo once again. This man coming in with the ice ball. You can tell he's feeling himself right now. Playing no trinket, playing that Iron Dwarf. You know, I'm a fellow Dark Iron Dwarf enjoyer these days. I used to be a gnome, but it's just beautiful to see these Dark Iron Dwarfs come to play here. And Cubsy making it look absolutely fantastic. Now, I don't like Calvish's Vanish there. I think he should take a little bit of the damage and then go for the Vanish. I think he went for the early Vanish, and then he comes out actually while the Arcane Surge is still active. Cubsy gets the perfect Bloodlust proc, and the rest is just history. You see that purple buff that Cubsy has right now under his frame as well? That one kind of in the middle there next to that shoe, that is more damage whenever he Arcane Blasts as well. So whenever he has that, it's after he missiles. So what he's trying to do right now is actually just spend some mana to get those missile procs, and there he gets it. And now Arcane Blast, and boom, and that's with 2 stacks of the 4 set right there. So Cubsy, once again, going for those Arcane Explosions does 2 things. Number 1, if you crit, it stacks your 4 set. It's actually really, really strong. And number 2, Arcane Explosion actually costs a lot of mana. So you spend mana, you get more clear casting. So he actually fishes for a clear cast right there, and he gets it. And that's why he's able to do such an insane amount of damage right there.
Well, I took your advice. I lit a candle. It didn't work. Should we pray again? Or should we wait until to see if they lock in Ellie Shaman again? Oh, I don't need it. Okay.
You can blow that candle out.
We're good. Never mind.
That's a fire hazard. You're going to be careful here. You got cats.
Sorry, I got smoke everywhere.
Oh,
no. All right, well, we're seeing a spec change with Corlic. When we talked to Shall We earlier this week, they actually said that they put the most practice time into this composition. Now we're seeing them lock it in on Dalaran Sewers. This is the 3rd game, though, Zico, and they can't afford to drop any more. What do you think about this switch?
Well, I think it makes sense. You trade out the burst of the Ellie Shaman for Shadow Priest, more kind of sustained damage, still good burst, more crowd control, and most importantly, a little bit of a tank. Because every comp, it's like when you go to a dungeon, right? You need to have the tank, you need to have the healer, you need to have the DPS. You want to have a little mix of everything, right? And that's kind of how you can cook up the perfect comp. It's the same in PvP. If you have too many glass cannons, like you have, let's say a Holy Priest, and you have, an Arcane Mage, and you have an Ellie Shaman, that is a very all-out aggressive comp. Like if you can keep your distance and do damage, you're gonna be blasting hard. But the moment an Astro connects on your targets, you're gonna fall over. So I like that they get rid of one of those glass cannons in that last comp. They bring in, a bit of an off tank now. Corlic's gonna be able to soak up a little bit of the aggro and add extra defense there for the team. So in terms of win conditions, though, it's going to be a little bit tough for them still to find it. I think personally, go after Cubsy, never stun him, use your stuns on the Chun-Li, send the silence, send the disarm onto Flop, and then try to work with that, try to get a Cyclone or a Fear from Corlic. You got a small map, so if Corlic can push in and get those Fears, they can find a win that way. They could also maybe go for a healer swap with Mind Games onto Flop, but Flop, they kind of did try to go after him last game, and he didn't even use Bark Skin. He just had perfect positioning basically from start to finish. So it could be tough, but it is an option to kind of fear the DPS and go after him as well.
Yeah, well, easier said than done. Cubsy's definitely having a good time in this matchup as we saw last game. So we'll see if they do it here again for game number 3. We'll see if they close it out with a 3-0. Also, something about Cubsy, if you guys haven't seen him, it's been a while since we've had lands. Cubsy likes to play in sunglasses. So I'm just imagining him like playing this arcade rogue with the sunglasses, just like gamer leaning, you know, just pressing, going through his rotations and just getting these wins out twice in a row. So we'll see if it works out for him for this third game, or is Shall We gonna get this win and maybe a reverse sweeps, Nico?
Yeah, we'll see if they can bring it back here. They're gonna need to, because this is the match point. This is an elimination match, like you mentioned. Loser goes home, winner advances to that top 4, and we'll see exactly who it will be. Right now, where is GOURDY looking absolutely fantastic? Shall We here on their kind of last life? Will they be able to bring it back, or will they get flushed here in the Dalaran sewers? Arcane Surge coming out for Cubsy, and he's looking for that damage, already getting some Garrots out. Flop going to be on stun DR from Kearney, so Flop is not going to be a target right now in this opener. They're going to go after Korlik on the side of where is GOURDY. Now Kearney going, getting into a bash, into a Cyclone. That silence, a little bit too slow there by Korlik, not able to stop that CC chain. And they are actually going for the strategy that I talked about, tunnel Cubsy and don't stun him. So this is a good strategy. Let's see how Cubsy can kind of close that gap. Chun-Li shadow stepping over to Calvish, going for that kidney shot. Huge damage coming in from that ring of fire, and Cubsy as well free casting those missiles, and he will get that Cloak of Shadows. Now the downside of this composition that Shall We has picked is the lack of ranged kicks. If you're fighting an Arcane Mage, if they can just free cast basically the entire game, they will at some point one-shot somebody. That's just kind of how Arcane Mage works right now. And this composition here doesn't have a lot of range kicks, so it's going to be really, really tough here for Shall We to actually stay alive. But they do get that fear onto Flop. Korlik is able to push in for it, but he does get Shadow Step kick, then also counterspell there by Cubsy. So it looks like whereas GOURDY will be able to stay alive there, but more of that from Shall We, and they definitely have a fighting chance here, Io.
Yeah, they certainly do. We're about 1.5 minutes into this, already looking better than they did for these first 2 games. They opted for that Shadow Priest with Korlik, so we'll see if they can make this one work this time, because this is their last chance. We're seeing Chun-Li chase all over the map for Korlik right now, but lots of damage, honestly, on both sides. So everything, oh my gosh, look at all that other arcane missiles for Cubsy. I mean, Zico's just talking about how you don't want to let an Arcane Mage free cast, and we're seeing that happen right now. All the damage coming from Cubsy onto the other team here, but everything so far, we're good right now. Calvish, however, look at it, about half health. Kearney has quite a bit of resources left to keep him alive, so not super in trouble yet, but things are for sure going to be ramping up pretty soon here, because Shall We certainly feeling that pressure. And then Chun-Li, look on the other side, he just forced out that Cloak of Shadows. He's feeling the mounting pressure as well as we get deeper and deeper into this game, Zico.
Yeah, Chun-Li going for the kidney shot now. Did have to trade his cloak right there. Calvish already getting blasted. Cubsy, anytime he's casting those arcane blasts, you know it is danger time. Korlik forced to use that dispersion right there as well. Calvish basically with nothing left. That was the void shift coming out from Korlik as well. So Korlik has nothing. Cubsy's free casting once again. Kearney gonna activate the broccoli form here, trying to keep his team alive, but at what cost here? They do have those spammable spell steals as well on that Arcane Mage. Just such a good pick into Druids in general right now. Cubsy spell stealing that power infusion, spamming out the spell steals. You can see here, Korlik has no HOTS anymore here. Just getting spam spell stolen, and Arcane Blasts are rolling in. Another one, there's the missiles. Here comes the blast again into another one, potentially an execute as well. Doesn't manage to find it there, but Cubsy, beautiful damage rotation here. You can tell he's definitely been practicing it, and he is doing tons of damage. What was it? Was that a cat or something?
Oh, sorry, that's me making noises because I'm worried for them. Oh gosh.
Korlik! He's going down, but he actually manages to stay alive for now. Calvish getting disarmed right there, and Korlik should be able to stabilize for now, but they really have nothing left. Kearney is in a full blind. He's trying to sit through. Trinkets out, trades the Iron Bark, and it looks like they will live to fight another go, but they don't have much mana left in the tank here, I am.
Yeah, they certainly don't. I mean, Korlik or Calvish, we're seeing how quickly he's kind of burning through those defensives. He does have Cloak of Shadows for now at the moment, Kearney, but you can see his mana is just dwindling. A lot of pressure right now going onto Korlik from Chun-Li, but Cubsy kind of hurting a little bit in health on the other side here, but really all the pressure is onto Korlik. We're going to see if he can stay alive through this push, and he is okay for now, but Chun-Li is just absolutely relentless. You can see Cubsy on the other side of the map here trying to get out of Paul League. Does get interrupted at the last minute, And then Flop is feeling it also from Calvish. You can see kind of towards the pillar boxes over there. So just kind of from all angles, we're seeing these teams just go at each other again and again. Cubsy is being chased by Calvish at the moment. I mean, who's going to die? I can't tell. I feel like these health bars are just continuing to drop from all angles. It kind of looked like oh my gosh, but look at Calvish. He's dead.
Calvish getting absolutely blasted out there, but he had some good pressure there onto Flop, actually forcing out the Tranquility Bubble, trying to go for that swap that you called out, but not able to find that second kidney that he needed, and they're able to get that kill there at the end. And once again, it's not, like the thing is, the Ellie Shaman, it's not a good pick, but the Shadow Priest is not really a good pick either. I feel like the Shadow Priest is kind of like the better bad pick in this matchup, but it really just comes down to the fact that you don't have a lot of ranged kicks. The Shaman does have that, but the Shaman doesn't have that tankiness. The Shadow Priest has that, so you kind of have to pick there between them, and unfortunately, it just doesn't look good either way. And Cubsy, once again, as soon as he's free casting in this matchup, he's able to get that damage out, and that's exactly what happens here. They get the swap onto Flop, and then I think what happens to Calvish? Does he get knocked here by the blast wave? I think that's what happens. Yeah, Calvish going for a beautiful knock right there into the missiles, and he does manage to take him down there with Chun-Li as well. Huge knock right there. Definitely a hole-in-one there, if I may say so myself.
Yeah, no handicap is needed. No golf handicap for this team. That is a quick 3-0 for them. Very solidly played. And Shall We is that's the end of them for that series. And this is elimination also, so we're actually not going to see them for the rest of the weekend. But maybe we see them return for Cup number 3 and 4, because they definitely need to get more points if they have any hopes of getting into that top 3 for the standings. I mean, this is tough competition. This is rough. How there's just really not a lot of spots left, especially considering, Zico, that we're nearing the halfway mark for these first 4 cups. So where's GOURDY is in a better position, but I'm starting to feel for these teams that are getting knocked out.
Absolutely, they really need to have a monster performance in these next 2 cups. But the thing is, some of these teams, it's a little early to call it still, because it's still, there's still 2 cups left. If you have a good performance in those last 2 cups, you're going to be able to actually we're going to see first. Let's talk about this graph right here. We got Cubsy time. So this is the 3 killing blows. So yeah, we kind of called it out there, but that was the touch of the Magi. So he gets the missiles, he gets the Arcane Blast, and then he gets that Arcane Blast crit right there, 102k on the left side, and then he gets that Arcane Barrage. So that Barrage is not a crit, but the touch of the Magi, explodes at the same time as that Arcane Barrage hit him, and that's what makes it kind of look like it was a crit. So that's a really nice burst rotation right there. And then we can see in the second game, that's the one in the middle, same rotation. It's those missiles into the POM, which makes your next 2 Arcane Blasts instant. And look at that crit city right there. So he gets the crit from the Arcane Blast, he gets the crit from the second Arcane Blast, and then he gets the Barrage Execute crit as well. So Cubsy single-handedly just soloing the Rogue right there. I believe it was Calvish on that middle one, and then on the last one, it's just it wasn't a big one shot or anything, but it was a really nice knock by Cubsy. And then he got the missiles, and then of course the Rogue as well of Chun, able to connect there with some mutilates and a little bit of bleed damage, and is able to take him down. And actually Flop as well, adding in a little bit of damage there with the Protector of the Pack. So the one that really stands out to me here is, I would say, the first one and the second one. It's the one to the left and the one in the middle by Cubsy, because those are basically perfect arcane rotations there. He fishes for the missile proc, gets the 20% damage buff, pops the touch of the Magi, gets 4 combo points from it, and from that point forward, it's a little bit RNG, because the 2-set gives you a 20% crit on your Arcane Blast. And if you get a double Arcane Blast crit, your log can just look like that. And then you also have the 4-set buffing your Execute. You have 2 stacks, maybe 3 stacks, or even 1 stack at that point. You're gonna have even more crit. And if you manage to get those crits, well, that's all it takes to solo somebody. So Cubsy doing a great job right there. And the reason why those numbers are so high as well is because he used that Dwarf Racial to basically as an unused trinket, you could tell. So Cubsy doing a great job there on the mage. And where's GOURDY? Gonna win this one 3-0.
And we still don't know where GOURDY is. But they got the win anyway, so it's all good. 3-0, shall we? Knocked out of the tournament. Hopefully we see them return. But, I mean, that's kind of something that they did talk to us about earlier on this week, shall we, is their lack of comp diversity and how that might be a weakness for them. So hopefully they can, you know, come back to the drawing board, come back for Cup 3 with something that might work a little bit better in those situations. Because like Zico said, those are good comps, just not great, unfortunately, in that situation. So well done to Where's GOURDY, quick 3-0, and now we're moving on to the very last series of the day. It's yet another elimination round. We are sending another team home. It's Power Men versus Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians, if you guys remember, had that series against Ascension earlier and was extremely convincing. It was another 3-0 from them, and then Power Men unfortunately did drop down to this lower bracket from Luminosity Gaming. So both really strong teams, both of them fighting to move forward in the lower bracket, Zico.
Both of them definitely contenders to make it to that finals. Golden Guardians finishing in 3rd place in that last cup. They want to have a repeat performance of that. So for Golden Guardians specifically, they want to get those points. This is really their chance to overtake Liquid in those standings as well, because Liquid did come 2nd. So Powerman, they didn't scrape up that many points. This is a chance for them to jump into the standings and, you know, become a dark horse kind of for those last 2 cups that we have remaining after this weekend. And for Golden Guardians, this is a chance for them to actually jump up in the standings and starting to solidify themselves as potentially the 2nd best team behind Luminosity. So that's going to be a really exciting game. You definitely don't want to miss that one.
Yeah, you certainly don't. There's going to be quite a bit of shuffling, I'm sure, by the end of this weekend in terms of standings. So we'll see who comes out on top for this one. We're going to head to a break. When we come back, Power Men versus Golden Guardians up next.
Welcome back, everyone. We have one final series left today, and it is a lower bracket elimination of the Golden Guardians, and they are going to be going up against the Powermen. Powermen have really been struggling with this composition that the Golden Guardians have, and I'm kind of worried for them in this matchup, Sid.
I'm a bit worried too. I think I saw on social media, Thugonomics tweeting though something along the lines of like, the Powermen will not go out in the first 2 weeks 0-9 or something along those lines. So I don't know if that's means they got some secret weapon here now for this series to turn this around, because I mean, they got that one win, but really Luminosity Gaming just didn't react in that position. So maybe they've got some surprising thing coming out here in game number 1, because Golden Guardians, I think it's pretty easy at this point to expect. Shadow Priest, Paladin, Assassination Rogue, really well-rounded, solid comp, and just 3-0'd the Powermen previously. So it's really up to them. Like, what's their secret weapon? What do they got? What's Tuna got? Like, has he got a Paladin? Is there a pocket pick? What's going on here?
He does have Paladin.
This circumstance?
We've seen it. He opted out of it like early on last week. He was playing it at the very beginning, but kind of feels like the Restoration Druid is not going to get it done against the Assassination Rogue Shadow Priest. I feel like Resto Druid is just not the pick, unless they have like some really crazy adaptations. It kind of just feels like Fuse is going to be playing that Death Knight, Daze is going to be playing the Rogue, and Thugonomics is going to be playing the Destruction Warlock. So I don't know if there's going to be more flexibility in the matchup than that. It looks like, nope, they are going to be just locking in the same composition. Golden Guardians actually not opting for the Restoration Shaman. Absurge will be playing that Paladin, and it's a great pick here. I think it deals with Dazed on the Assassination Rogue nicely, and also is just so convenient for pushing in for the Blinding Light, the Hammer of Justice, to make it even more difficult for Tuna to recover in these situations.
Okay, let's see if they can stay alive here through the onslaught. Daze moving in, looking for a sap, doesn't find it. Oh, he gets popped out of stealth. Peekaboo gonna open up on Thugonomics, move back to Daze, and actually targeting Daze pretty heavily here. Smoke Bomb gets dropped, but pre-Iron Bar from Tuna. That's gonna negate all the damage on Daze. Really well played from Tuna, anticipating that Smoke Bomb and negating the push of Peekaboo. Now Peekaboo swapping targets back onto Thugonomics. Thugonomics peeling them away with that Mortal Coil, looking for a fear, gets interrupted by Peekaboo. But they're starting to get closer and closer to Tuna. You can see him behind that pillar, but WizKid sneaking up. He grips Absterge. They're actually swapping to Absterge. This is a confident swap to the healer. Very risky to use your kidney shots on the healer and not the damage dealers to slow down the pressure. Doesn't net them anything too particularly nasty, but Tuna's now blinded. He's trying to sit through it. He actually gets to sit through it. They deny the sap with a dismantle. Really well played, breaking up that crowd control. Tuna's going to be feeling a lot better knowing he's got his medallion if he needs it in the future.
Yeah, but Dazed had to trinket out of that Hammer of Justice, so there's no flexibility from Tuna in terms of like Blessing of Protection. The next kidney shot could be absolutely devastating from Peekaboo. There's the evasion, there's the kidney shot, and there is no way out. Dazed gets dropped, even though Tuna had his trinket available. There's no healing. You don't have Iron Bar, you don't have Nature Swiftness, there's nothing you could do. So that is the danger of that Wrestle Druid. You fall behind, it could be lights out. Thugonomics going for a miracle play. Peekaboo shuts it down with a cheap shot. And I don't think Thugonomics is going to be able to close this one out 1 versus 3. Tuna taps out, and Golden Guardians put the first point on the board.
All right, they tried to mix it up there. They went after Absterge a little bit there with that one swap, but it didn't really net them anything. He just had Avenging Crusader rolling, was able to recover through it without having used Medallion, without having used Divine Shield. This is right after that swap to him. And then they managed to hold Tuna's Trinket for the blind, but the crowd control, it's really annoying as a healer, because it's like, do you trinket a 3-second stun into a 2-second silence? Because that's just what's going to happen if you do in that position. And Dazed here, he has evasion, but I think he gets cheap shot into another stun and just dies as a result. So really good cheap shot there by Peekaboo, knowing that he can't use the kidney into evasion. Didn't have a step, it seems like, at that position to be able to land the stun. Securing the stun lock for his team, and then all 3 members dogpiling on top of him to finish him off here at the minute 33 mark. Strong performance from them. Now, where are we going, Powermen? How are you going to stop the 0-9? What's it going to be? A small map again? Is it going to be the Death Knight Rogue composition? Which I actually think it could work if you didn't have a Druid healer. With the Death Knight Rogue just running down the Holy Paladin. I actually am not totally against doing that on a small map, but I really think they got to get the tree out of there and get a different healing class in for this composition.
Yeah, the tree is not working out, but I'm interested to know if the Paladin would actually be better. I feel like the only problem with the Paladin to me is you're so susceptible to kind of an all-in with shivs and dismantle. Not only that, but you also are going to get mass dispelled. So if they do decide to just go after Absurge on the Paladin, there's going to be really no defense for WizK to just rip out Dispels and Mass Dispels and put a lot of damage and pressure. So maybe that's why, Tuna's opting not to go for that. But I really feel like they need to mix it up. We've seen this time and time again. This composition does not seem to be working out for them. But the question is, do they have anything else besides the Assassination Rogue DK? We haven't seen it just yet, but yeah, it might be time to make some sort of comp swap, because this just does not seem to be going their way. Like, these games are very one-sided. Although they did manage to get one win, yeah, they're just going to stick with the same thing. So they're going to have to rise up. The Powermen are going to have to power up in this series. We're going to have to see some insane plays. And I think also we're going to need to see the Golden Guardians make some mistakes here, honestly, if the Powermen are to come ahead in this one.
All right, let's see if the Powermen can take advantage of any opportunities here. They did win a game on Ashmane's Fall against Luminosity. So catching the enemy players off guard, bursting them down, leaving Thugonomics open was the case there. It's going to be really favorable towards the Druid, getting a lot of distance between his teammates, so that it's not as easy for Absturge or Peekaboo or WizK to get to their targets for crowd control. They're all close range crowd control based targets, so theoretically this should play out as favorably as possible, but I'm just not sold on it. I feel like the Shadow Priest mashing down Purge, the Holy Paladin Absturge tossing in extra damage is just going to be able to overwhelm the Druid, put them in a position where they're always behind and where they're just trying to stay alive as opposed to getting aggressive and trying to get crowd control and win the game. So this is it. If they don't win it here, I think it's going to be a 3-0 for the Golden Guardians, likely moving to Championship Sunday. Can they turn it around? We've seen other teams in EU in similar positions, with the Fiends being down 2 points in their series, and I was counting them out. I thought they were getting brutalized, and they turned it around. So perhaps there's some miracle. Perhaps there's a strategy that hasn't been executed on yet by the Powermen that they could break out here to bring this series back in their favor, start putting some points on the board. They need it here. They need it now. It's the lower bracket. If they lose this series, they'll be out of the tournament. As the gates have opened, Sap already immediately onto WizK. Peekaboo moving forward. Thugonomics trying to Chaos Bolt off that Sap. Just trying to get a bit of extra damage with that. Actually blasting him down to half health there, as Absturge is able to pick him up in the back line. Peekaboo's just eagerly awaiting, trying to see where Dazed is going to go. And he sees Dazed open on WizK, but he's kind of out of position to appeal for him. He's going to move in onto Thugonomics, garrote him, and then garrote Dazed, likely first getting shot onto Dazed, but he gets dismantled. He's not able to. Now Dazed is dismantled. He can't set up, and Absturge is charging in, looking for crowd control. And it looks like Tuna used his trinket into a full blinding light. That could be the end of the game. Dazed is just dying through evasion and quote. What is going on? The Golden Guardians just absolutely beast mode down Dazed in game 2.
Oh, that's not what you want to see whatsoever if you are the Powermen. I feel like we've seen this story play out. Absturge doing a great job playing aggressive, and that's one of the reasons why you want the Holy Paladin on your team in this particular matchup. Unfortunately for Tuna, he has to deal with the Paladin just charging in on top of him. He has the Hammer of Justice as well as the Blinding Light. And I believe he actually shadow melded the Hammer of Justice as well. So we'll see exactly how that went down. But we can see the opening stages of the match. Dazed was actually in kind of a prime position to open. Peekaboo wasn't able to respond immediately. So he opens up in a good spot. Peekaboo forced to use his sprint to actually get there and get the peel. So he gets the garrote onto Dazed. Double dismantle coming in. Peekaboo dismantles Dazed. Dazed dismantles Peekaboo. And you can see exactly how this goes down with Tuna. So Absturge moves in, and Tuna actually shadow melds the Hammer of Justice. But Absturge has the follow-up anyways with the Blinding Light. And I mean, if you're Tuna, you can't really trinket there. You can't trinket the Blinding Light, so there's really nothing you can do if you are Tuna. Tuna made a great play with that shadow meld.
Can we get that replay again? Because I swear his trinket was on cooldown.
Oh, he didn't trinket.
I swear Tuna, if you watch Tuna's medallion, he trinkets something. If it was nothing, it might have been nothing. I swear, I watched Tuna's medallion.
He trinkets at the last second when Dazed is...
I swear, that I know what you're talking about, the shadow meld on the Hodge, but I swear he trinkets.
Let's see.
So he shadow melds, and then he gets blinded. I must have been seeing things. I swear that I saw him use medallion the last time I saw this replay. But he sits through the blind. Yeah, right here. You see? I'm losing it. I'm looking at the shadow meld icon. I swear. We added the shadow meld icon, and that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it has a 2M next to it. And I'm used to looking at that part of the frame and seeing a 2M and be like, oh, the trinket was used. But yeah, it's not. So,
I mean, it's just it's a rough spot, right? If you're Tuna, what you trinket the blind, then what you get full blinded. I mean, good game. Like, yeah. It's like no matter what you do, it's bad, which is definitely unfortunate. You saw Absturge too at the end of that replay. His player cam, he's definitely happy with how that one played out.
Immunes the Hodge and gets blinded, and that's kind of the mind game. Like, you have two choices there. If you're gonna shadow meld or tranquility, right? Because you could tranquility try and immune it. Shadow Meld is a little bit, it's better in the long term to use, but then you get punished like that. Whereas if you use Tranquility and you hit it, you'll get the healing output. You'll still be immune for a few seconds. Your team might be able to CC the Paladin, and then you can move away and escape. But I think it's obvious now at this point with the Powermen going on to Tolvaron Arena that they don't have anything else. This is the best comp that they've got. They're going to try and make it work here. At this point, I'm kind of on the side of like just try to kill Absterge almost. Like, what is the main weakness of a Holy Paladin? Attacking them. So if he runs in like that and just like charging straight at Tuna, like you got to intercept him. You got to save something, coil him, vanished kidney, whatever. Like keep him off of Tuna. Go after the Paladin. Don't just let him run through the middle of the map like that and get crowd control for free. Is the only thing I can think of at this point for them, because otherwise it's just deteriorating every aspect. The cooldowns are breaking down, the mana is breaking down, there's nothing going in their favor. They're just slowly whittling away, even if they can stay alive. So some drastic change in targeting or strategy here is what I want to see from the Powermen.
Well, here's the really bad news for the Powermen, right? Like, okay, they might lose the series, but the problem for them is it seems like 30% of the teams in North America right now are Shadow Priest Assassination Rogue. So if you can't beat this composition, like your chances are just not great for advancing and kind of moving forward. So I think even if the Powermen do get eliminated in this game, they need to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure it out. But we can see if they do have any adaptations here. We get a sap over onto Absurge, Garrote cheap shot onto WizK. Nice dismantle there by Peekaboo, trying to slow down the offense coming in from the Powermen in the early stages of the match. WizK getting blasted. Large amount of damage. He's going to have to play back. The crowd control on Absurge is endless. There's the dispersion. This is the offense you want to see from the Powermen. They traded a lot of their buttons. That was the death mark. A lot of crowd control onto Absurge, but what do they really net? They get the trinket from WizK as well as the dispersion. Now making a swap on Peekaboo. Can Peekaboo survive? He's caught into a stun. Huge damage from Thugonomics. Really just doing work on that Destruction Warlock. Absurge forced to trade out the sacrifice, and this is a much better start for the Powermen. But Daze could just go down. Cloak of Shadows, he's forced to trade out the trinket. This is a disaster, Sid.
Oh, he's in a gouge right now. Dates is going to pop that evasion, but Peekaboo's getting low as well. Thugonomics is free casting. Smoke bomb comes down from Peekaboo, looking to finish the game. It's match point. Tournament lives on the line. Can Tuna save the day? He gets a Nature Swiftness and tops off Daze. Now WizK on the back foot. Does he Void Shift? He gets a Void Shift off to Peekaboo. Peekaboo's low on health now as well. Absurge is caught up in a gouge as they're cleaving down multiple targets with this Bane of Havoc. Daze is trying to reposition. He's got no trinket. He knows he dies in this next kidney to Deathmark. Here it comes. Kidney shot Deathmark. Tuna's got nothing. He trank bubbles Absurge's crowd control, but he needs more healing. He doesn't have the healing to keep Dazed up. Cheat Death is going to proc, and somehow, some way, he holds on. He survives the death mark of Peekaboo. Absolutely unbelievable. Now Peekaboo into a Cyclone. They're going to bop WizK here and try and get him aggressive onto Dazed. Try and set up for some crowd control. This is the best position that we have seen the Powermen in so far in this series. Can they close it out? They get a fear on the Absurge, but it's on diminishing return. He's going to get right back into the fight. They're charging towards Tuna. They got a gouge. They have the blinding light kidney. Tuna, there's no way you can sit this dude. 1 second left. He's trying to sit through it. Now into the hammer. He trinkets, but it's too little, too late. Dazed is going to get smoked, and the Golden Guardians close it out 3-0 to Championship Sunday.
Well, Golden Guardians with a beautiful offensive push there. But I have to say, out of all the games we've seen today, that was the best coming in from the Powermen. They had a great start with lots of crowd control on Absurge and just getting super duper aggressive. But once they kind of fell behind, it just seems so difficult for the Restoration. Druid Tuna is extremely good on that Druid, but it's just such... You have to make these really difficult choices, right? Like we'll see at the end of the match where Absurge moves forward. It's the same kind of situation where everybody knows Absurge has the Blinding Light and their Hammer of Justice. Tuna knows it. If he trinkets the Blinding Light, it's an immediate Hammer of Justice. If he doesn't trinket the Blinding Light, he's going to trinket the Hammer of Justice. But at that point, you're just so far behind and you're global starved, right? If you don't have your cooldowns to actually keep up the hots or put up an Iron Bark, and WizK is just mashing down the Purge, it's just so difficult to heal in that situation as a Druid.
It was a rough ride. This was the early game where we saw Powermen get the most momentum that we had seen, like their best opener, getting Trinket, getting Dispersion from the Shadow Priest. They had much more clear lines of possible victories as a result of this opener here, but it was Deathmark as well. And this was a miracle moment, like how he kept Dazed alive. This is the most damage an Assassination Rogue can do. Peekaboo is maxed out with the Rogue stunned. And Thugonomics is blasting Chaos Bolts. So that Tranquility immunity, Tuna Shadow Melts to try and avoid any other instant CC here and get some heals out, clutching it out right at the last possible second. because I thought the game was over here. And then this is where Absterge needs to get punished, but I think it's because they already put him on Fear DR. So right here, they put him on a half Fear DR. Or no, they get a full Fear, actually. And is it right after this where he runs? Oh, it breaks early? It looks like it ends up breaking early. And then he just runs straight at Tuna. Like, they can't let him do this. Tuna either needs to start running away, and Daze needs to, like, step out or something. I'm not sure, because right after this point, Absterge goes, okay, I'm immune to fear, basically. There's nothing that can stop me. I'm going to run at your Resto Druid. Peekaboo steps over to secure.
What can he do?
Yeah, he secures it because he's gouged. And then just into blind, into Hodge. That's like 20 seconds of CC right there. You're not living 20 seconds of CC with your hots purged off by the Shadow Priest at that point. So it just looks like a really rough matchup, honestly, for their team here this week. So going back to the drawing board is going to be important for them, I think, moving into the remaining tournaments.
There's just so much ranged instant CC on Tuna, right? Like, even the Shadow Step gouge, like, Tuna is positioned in a way where he was trying to range Absterge, but Peekaboo with the Shadow Step gouge, Absterge just uses his Divine Steed with the freedom. He's on Fear DR. No one can really stop him. And if you're Tuna, you're kind of just watching the game unfold in front of your eyes, unable to control your character. Definitely a rough one. And I think for the Powermen, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this game, they need to go back to the drawing board. I don't know what other compositions that they can run to beat this, but they need to try to figure it out, because it's going to be very inconsistent for them if this is just a brick wall. Like, every time they fight the Shadow Priest Rogue Paladin, it's a brick wall. I think they're really going to struggle throughout the cup stages.
Yeah, definitely kind of a sad point for them. Curious to see where they end up on the point standings overall for the Powermen. If they still got a shot for the Gauntlet, because I think that they do. Within that realm of the top 8. We'll have to wait until after the weekend to tally that all up to see if they still got a close shot here with only 2 more weeks remaining in the cup stage before the North American Finals. This was the last series of the day, which is really surprising to say, because it feels like today just blew by really fast. I guess a lot of these games were blowouts, just huge domination from the teams that won and performed today, which means that tomorrow is likely going to be really entertaining and explosive to see all these teams that were so dominant now go head to head with each other.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We've already seen such close series. I mean, one of the reasons why the Golden Guardians is in the lower bracket is they had a nail biter series in the offline stages of the bracket against Luminosity in the early one of the early games in the tournament. So that was a 2-3 really close series once again. I'm curious to see if the Golden Guardians can kind of march their way through that lower bracket and actually make it into a rematch with Luminosity Gaming, because that seems to be their kryptonite at this point. I think the Golden Guardians, they're in a really good meta position in terms of the meta. Like, the compositions that they run are very solid. They do have to get through Where's Gordy first, which is not going to be an easy match. We just saw Where's Gordy kind of dismantle Shall We, which was running the Shadow Priest Rogue Paladin. So we'll see if Golden Guardians plays it a little bit different. Maybe that's where Absterge is going to have to come in on his Restoration Shaman, and that healer flexibility might give them an edge. And then, of course, in the upper bracket finals, we have Luminosity Gaming going up against the Silver Sentinels. And the Silver Sentinels, I think, were very impressive today.
Yeah, very impressive. I mean, to make it to the top 3, I think they're very ecstatic about it. I think I saw Rosita on social media crediting how amazing Cubsy is at Arcane Mage, and how shocked he was personally of making it into the top 3. But they're looking like a strong rogue mage. They're going to be the first team on Sunday to challenge Luminosity Gaming. Can they end their reign? Is Luminosity Gaming just going to win every single cup again? Is there somebody that can stop the Titans, these newcomers, newly formed roster, as the first challengers to step up against them? It should be very exciting. And then Golden Guardians, I'm sure, are more than eager. They want their rematch. Like, they're going. There's a lot of grudge here. There's a lot of revenge, quote unquote revenge, that they want to instill onto Luminosity Gaming with those 2 reverse sweeps so far in the cup stage that they've had against them.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can do it later on tomorrow. But of course, before that, we will be getting into our European games, and we do have Poggers going up against Dragonlance Roulette in that upper bracket. Now, Dragonlance Roulette kind of making their debut here in Cup number 2. They've had a very dominant upper bracket run, but now they are met with Poggers, and Poggers is kind of back with a vengeance. They had what I would say was a very disappointing Cup number 1, but they seem more focused than ever. Some of the priest buffs that came in, I think, really enable Meh. And as a team that kind of is an RMP main, I mean, they were the most dominant Rogue Mage Priest in Shadowlands last season. They were absolutely incredible. So the fact that this composition is now once again enabled for them, I feel like makes them absolutely horrifying for the competition. So we'll see how they can do against Dragonlance Roulette. And then, of course, in that lower bracket, we have the Fiends versus Admiral Esports. These two teams are absolute titans as well. And I think that one is really interesting just because of how many different compositions both those rosters have available to them.
Yeah, the Fiends have been running that Survival Hunter, Subtlety Rogue, Holy Priest, the only team in the competition. Insane series versus Team Hoo-Hoo, the runners-up of Cup 1, and they were able to pull a nail-biter reverse sweep there, but they got to fight Admirals Esports that are probably going to be playing the same composition and the same strategy that was so tough for them. So hopefully they've gone above and beyond what they were able to do and achieve yesterday to be able to overcome their next opponent.
Yeah, and it's not going to be easy, like you said, but the Fiends, they're kind of, I feel like they're like a crowd favorite at this point, kind of running some of the underdog specializations. You could argue Subtlety Rogue, but, you know, the Holy Priest hasn't really been super popular, as well as the Hunter. So those three kind of specs coming together and the way they kind of perform, it's been beautiful to see. And we'll have to see if that kind of all-out aggression will actually work out well for them. But yeah, I think tomorrow we got a lot of exciting games. I want to ask you before, you know, we close this thing up, what your predictions are for tomorrow.
Just a lot of results here, like overall prediction.
Yeah, overall.
The safe overall prediction is Luminosity Gaming in NA. I think that's the safest option. In EU, it really depends on what Valet's team plays. Like, I swear if they can play a really good Holy Paladin, Shadow Priest Rogue, that they might be really difficult for Poggers. But this is also kind of like Rogue Mage Week. So I feel like betting against Poggers is not a good thing. So I'd say Poggers in EU and Luminosity in NA at this point.
Yeah, I think those are pretty safe picks, right? I mean, this kind of the champions of each region from last year. But yeah, really exciting day of games. Tomorrow, the finals should be exciting. And one thing to keep in mind as well is these teams do have limited opportunities to earn points. So there's only a few more cups after this. Tomorrow is going to be massive. Need to start accumulating those points to secure themselves that top 3 position, Sid.
Yeah, really excited. Can't wait for it. Been so many exciting moments, even just between yesterday and today. Insane setups, fast burst damage, rush downs, insane crowd control eats, turnarounds, really unexpected results, big names not making it to broadcast, a lot of opportunities for new blood to make their mark. So I'm more than excited to what's the word I'm looking for? Crown our next champions of week number 2.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too to see how these teams kind of adapt. You know, some of these teams that, you know, aren't maybe playing the most meta compositions. It seems like Assassination has kind of like really risen to the top. So maybe more teams kind of implementing that, or maybe figuring out a solid answer. I'm trying to like theorize what would actually be good into the Assassination Rogue. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I think for some of these rosters, they're realizing, like Liquid, for example, I think they've been practicing a lot of Rogue Mage themselves to try to figure out exactly what they need to do.
It's exactly what you need here. Picking up the Assassination Rogue going to be very important in this tournament meta for sure. We've seen a lot of the teams adapting to it. And even you would think like the Assassination Rogue would struggle, right? Because Preservation Evoker has the ability to cauterize bleeds. Everybody's running a Dwarf. You would think that this is like the most difficult position to be an Assassination Rogue, and yet they're still running around everywhere. It's actually kind of crazy to me to think of that there's so many mechanics that interact in sort of like a direct counter manner, and Assassination Rogue is still able to stand as powerfully as it is.
Yeah, I think the Assassination Rogue right now, its kit is just overall super duper powerful, but we'll have to see how these teams do kind of deal with that Assassination Rogue. Tomorrow, we do have the finals for both North America and firstly, Europe. And we'll see who ends up going through the lower bracket, the upper bracket, and ultimately becoming the winner of Cup number 2, which is really important for those points. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.